The man standing before me had a standard square face, but his skin was pale and worn. He kept glancing toward the inner manor, his expression tight with anxiety and a flickering sense of disappointment. This was the 9th day in a row he had come to visit. Watching Lenny act so humble made my heart ache. In my past life, I was a great emperor who had lived through 9 incarnations. To break through the ultimate shackles, I had ventured onto the ancient chaos road, only to fall into a death trap. Before I died, I scattered my entire 9-generation inheritance, never expecting the Taishu creation technique to shield my soul. After drifting through the endless void for 100,000 years, I activated the ultimate reincarnation and condensed a congenital Tao body. For 16 years in this new life, I walked on thin ice. I spent my days brewing the first creation Tao fruit of the Taishu technique while quietly sensing the world around me. I didn't dare to practice. I was terrified that I would lock onto me again. I refused to be a pawn a second time. However, my caution made my entire family believe I was a failure who couldn't even open my spirit meridians. Lin Yi, the head of the Lin family branch in Tianyuan town, paced beside me. He looked at the silent manor and then turned to me. "Chen'er, don't worry," Lin Yi said, patting my shoulder with a forced, comforting smile. "Your grandfather saved the great elder's life years ago. He will definitely help you open your meridians." I didn't say anything. Lin Yi was a kind and honest man. He was the one who had found me in the wilderness 16 years ago, right after I had condensed my new body and raised me as his own. He treated me like his own flesh and blood. In truth, I didn't need the great elder. In a few days, the first creation Tao fruit would mature with 9 Tao patterns. Once that happened, I could open my own meridians safely. We waited until noon. The sun beat down on us until a guard finally emerged from the manor. He looked at us with blatant disdain, grunted a cold snort, and turned back inside without a word. "Chen'er, there's hope. Follow him." Lin Yi didn't care about the guard's rudeness. He grabbed my hand and pulled me along. We crossed the massive estate and reached a grand courtyard. 2 middle-aged men stood outside, their auras far stronger than Lin Yi's. The guard stopped at the gate. "Go in. The great elder is waiting," he said flatly. "Thank you." Lin Yi bowed slightly to the guards before leading me into the yard. An old man with silver hair stood near a pavilion, wearing a light gray robe. His aura was deep, and his eyes were like torches. This was Lin Hua, the great elder of the Hongfeng City Lin family. He was at the peak of the God communication realm, just 1 step away from condensing a Qi Si. Beside him stood a 16-year-old boy, his grandson, Lin Qing. Despite his young age, he had already reached the blood-melting realm. He stared at us with pure arrogance. "Lin Yi, head of the Tianyuan branch, greets the great elder," Lin Yi said, bowing deeply. I stood behind him, my expression calm. "Lin Yi, why have you come to see me?" Lin Hua asked, cutting straight to the point. "Great elder, my son will be 16 in half a month, but he still hasn't opened his meridians," Lin Yi explained, bowing again. "My father sent us here hoping you would use your power to help him. Please, for the sake of the past." Years ago, my grandfather, Lin Mingyi, had risked his life to save Lin Hua from an ambush. Lin Yi was banking on that debt of gratitude. With a peak God communication expert helping, opening meridians was almost guaranteed. "Oh, so you're Lin Qin?" Lin Qing interrupted, laughing mockingly. "I heard you were a big deal in Tianyuan town. Turns out you're just a talentless waste who can't even open his meridians." Lin Qing had always viewed me as a rival because of the rumors that I could kill beasts with my bare hands at age 10. Now that he saw I was powerless, he couldn't hide his glee. Lin Yi's brow furrowed at the insult, but he suppressed his anger. We were here to beg, after all. I remained indifferent. "Lin Yi," Lin Hua said, waving his hand dismissively. "If your son hasn't opened his meridians by 16, he isn't suited for cultivation. Let him live a normal life, get married, and have kids. There is no need to force it." He wasn't going to help. He didn't care about the debt he owed my grandfather at all. "Father, let's go," I said, feeling a bit amused. These people were frogs at the bottom of a well. In the 9 heavens, plenty of geniuses started after 16. I only came here to satisfy Lin Yi's persistence. If they didn't want to help, that suited me just fine. I turned to pull Lin Yi away, But Lin Hua's eyes narrowed. He looked at me with a hidden flash of killing intent. My calmness bothered him. A normal 16-year-old in my position would be panicking or throwing a tantrum. My composure was unnatural. "Chinner, wait," Lenny whispered. He thought I was just trying to save his dignity. He gritted his teeth and pulled a delicate white jade bottle from his robe. He held it up with both hands. "This is a bottle of jade spirit pith," Lenny said. "I only ask that the Great Elder helps my son. Please." Jade spirit pith was incredibly rare. It could help a cultivator break through bottlenecks. For someone like Lin Hua, it was the key to reaching the Qi realm. It was worth a fortune. Lin Hua's eyes flared with greed the moment he saw the bottle. He moved like lightning, snatching the bottle from Lin Yi's hands. Then, his face twisted into a mask of rage. "Lin Yi, how dare you?" Lin Hua roared, his aura exploding outward. "I kindly grant you an audience, and you dare to steal my jade spirit pith?" He wasn't just refusing to help. He was framing Lin Yi to steal the treasure. Before Lin Yi could even react, Lin Hua swung his hand. A violent gust of energy slammed into Lin Yi's chest. My father was sent flying backward, crashing into the ground several meters away. He coughed up a mouthful of bright red blood. The air around me turned ice cold. A strange, ghostly light flickered in my eyes. "You're looking for death," I whispered. My killing intent surged, freezing the very air in the courtyard. "Chinner, don't." My father, Lin Yi, cried out from the ground. He heard the ice in my voice and panicked. He was terrified I'd do something impulsive and offend Lin Hua even further. Despite his injuries, he forced himself up and stumbled in front of me, shielding me with his own body. A few paces away, Lin Hua stood frozen. His eyes were wide with a shock he couldn't hide. For a split second, he, a peak god attunement realm expert, had felt the cold touch of death. A suffocating pressure had gripped his throat, and he didn't know why. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice softening as I looked at my father. The ghostly light in the depths of my eyes flickered and vanished. I reached out to steady him, but my mind was racing. I had to complete my pulse opening immediately. Without spirit pulses, I couldn't absorb the energy of heaven and earth. My best techniques were locked away. For years, the Lin family back in Tianyuan town had treated me with nothing but kindness. Even when I failed to open my pulses for 2 years straight, they didn't cast me out. They spent every resource to help me. That was why my father had brought the jade spirit pith here to beg Lin Hua for help. "I'm fine, Chunner," my father whispered. His face was deathly pale. He was only at the peak of the blood-refining realm, a full major stage below Lin Hua. Taking a sneak attack from a powerhouse like that had done real damage, but he hid his pain, not wanting me to feel guilty. "Great Elder, what is the meaning of this?" My father gritted his teeth, forcing back the agony in his chest. He knew Lin Hua wasn't just the Great Elder of the main branch. He was a powerhouse. If we provoked him further, neither of us would leave Hongfeng City alive. He had to keep playing the diplomat. "Before I truly lose my temper," Lin Hua sneered, his lips curling with smug satisfaction as he tucked the jade spirit pith into his own robe. "Take your trash, son, and get out." My father's face turned ashen. He realized now that getting help was impossible. But he refused to believe Lin Hua could just ignore the law. He decided to go to the head of the family to demand justice. "Chinner, we're leaving," he said, turning to lead me away. "Yeah, hurry up and scram," Lin Qing shouted, standing triumphantly beside his grandfather. The boy's young face was twisted with a cruel, dark glee. "Grandpa, are you really just letting them walk away alive?" Lin Qing asked. Lin Hua looked at his grandson and gave a cold smile. "Qing'er, let this be your first lesson. The strong rule, and the weak are discarded. You must practice hard. If you join one of the 3 great sects, you'll have a glorious future. As for those 2, he watched our retreating backs with total indifference. To him, killing us was like crushing ants. Doing it inside the estate would cause gossip, though. People knew we had come to his courtyard, and many remembered that my father had once saved Lin Hua's life. He didn't want the reputation of a man who murdered his savior. Suddenly, a guard ran into the courtyard, reporting to the Great Elder. "Those 2, they're heading toward the family head's residence." Lin Qing panicked. "Grandpa, what do we do?" "Relax," Lin Hua said, completely unbothered. A mere branch leader means nothing. The family head knows how to weigh the scales. He was certain the family head wouldn't offend a peak god attunement elder over a useless boy from a side branch. Going to Lin Hai was just a recipe for further humiliation. Lin Jun, Lin Hua said coldly to a subordinate. Once they leave the city, make sure they disappear. Understood, Great Elder, Lin Jun replied with a smirk. He was at the 4th level of the god attunement realm. Killing a blood-refining cultivator would be child's play. Meanwhile, we stood before Lin Hai, the head of the family. He was a refined-looking man, but he radiated the power of a true Qi-Si realm expert. My father bowed low, explaining everything that had happened. He didn't even ask for the jade spirit pith back anymore. He just begged Lin Hai to help me open my pulses. Lin Hai listened with a blank expression. Your son is almost 16, he said eventually. If he hasn't opened his pulses by now, even I would find it nearly impossible to help him. Even if I succeeded, he'd likely only open a single pulse. His future would be non-existent. He sighed, acting as if he were being reasonable. Opening pulses requires a massive amount of spiritual energy. If I force it and fail, the backlash is dangerous. The city competition is in 3 months, and as the family head, I cannot afford to waste my strength. Go back to Tianyuan town. I hear your daughter has good talent. Focus on her. Maybe one day she can join the main house. He spoke calmly, acting like he was looking out for us, but he didn't mention the stolen jade spirit pith once. I watched him with cold detachment. I had seen this weighing of interests 1,000 times before. It was short-sighted and pathetic. A man like this, who allowed such injustice in his own home, actually thought he could recruit my sister, Lin Yufei? It was a joke. But, family head, my father stammered. He was too honest to see the hidden meaning. The jade spirit pith is the treasure of our branch. Men, Lin Hai interrupted, his voice turning sharp. See our guests out. 2 guards stepped forward immediately. Lin Hai turned his back on us, his eyes full of contempt. He wasn't about to cross his great elder for the sake of a few nobodies. This way, please, the guards said, their hands already reaching for my father's shoulders. When my father hesitated, looking devastated, they began to physically shove him toward the exit. I shook my head and followed silently. Family head, you can't do this, my father roared as we were pushed out. Inside the room, a young girl with delicate features frowned. Father, isn't the great elder being a bit much? I heard Lin, he saved his life once. Even if we don't help, we shouldn't let the elder rob them. Lin Hai sighed. Mayor, I am the head of this family. I have to balance things. Offending the great elder for them is a losing trade. Besides, the great elder's son is an outer sect deacon at the Star River sect. We can't afford a rift. Outside the gates of the Lin estate, the guards threw us into the street. I helped my father up. He was trembling, his spirit broken by the betrayal of the people he had looked up to. I'm sorry, Chunner, he choked out as we started walking toward the city gates. It's my fault. Your father is useless. My father, Lin Yi, was a man of integrity. He had come to Hawfeng City with high hopes, believing this branch of the family would help me. Instead, they had robbed us. The jade spirit pith was gone, stolen by Lin Hua. I saw the hollow look in my father's eyes. He had stayed at the peak of the 6th level of the God communication realm for years, refusing to use that medicine for himself. He had saved it for my future. Now, it was in the hands of a thief. The sun began to rise over the city, painting the clouds in shades of crimson. The streets hummed with life, but my father walked like a ghost. He was devastated. I reached out and steadied him. Don't worry, father, I said, forcing a smile. Maybe I'll just open my meridians later than most. I knew the truth. My 16th birthday was almost here. That was the moment the first Tao fruit of the great void creation technique would ripen. Once it did, I wouldn't need their help or their stolen medicine. My father just shook his head. He didn't believe me. He told me about a legend named Luo Fu who opened his meridians at 18, but he knew the chances were 1 in a million. If I can't open them, I said as we walked, I'll follow the path of the ancients. I'll become a body refiner. His face went even paler. To him, body tempering was a death sentence. It was a path of extreme pain and low success. He didn't know that I had been refining my flesh in secret for a decade. He didn't know that my soul had been tempered in the void for 100,000 years across 9 previous lives. I felt a prickle on the back of my neck. Someone was watching us. Even without open meridians, my soul perception was sharper than any master's. I had given up the power of my past lives to perfect this 10th reincarnation, but I wasn't defenseless. "Father, let's eat," I said, pointing to a steaming noodle shop. "We need our strength for the walk back to Tianyuan town." My stomach growled. He realized he'd forgotten I was still a growing boy. We sat down and ordered. A few yards away, hidden by a wall, Lin Jun watched us. I could feel his killing intent. He was smiling like a predator. Back at the Lin Manor, the family head, Lin Hai, was watching his daughter Lin Mei practice her sword forms. A guard whispered that Lin Jun had followed us out. Lin Hai didn't care. He dismissed the guard with a wave. He knew exactly what Lin Jun intended to do. "Father, why is Lin Jun following them?" Lin Mei asked, pausing her training. "Don't worry about them," Lin Hai replied coldly. "Focus on your sword. The city competition is in 3 months. If you win, you join the Star River sect. That's all that matters." To him, our lives were a small price to pay for family politics. He expected us to be dead before morning. After we finished our noodles, we left the city. Lin Jun stayed behind us, keeping his distance. He was waiting for the crowds to thin. "Don't worry, Chun'er," my father said, misinterpreting my silence. "Even if you never touch the martial path, I'll make sure you're taken care of." I looked at him and felt a surge of gratitude. He had found me as an infant in the wild 15 years ago and raised me as his own. He was a good man. Deep inside my soul, I looked at the great void tree. Its leaves were etched with divine runes, pulsing with the power of the Tao. 9 fruits hung from the branches, shrouded in mist. Pure energy was flowing into the lowest fruit, making it glow. Tonight, everything would change. "Yufei has great talent," my father continued, a playful glint returning to his eyes. "When you both come of age, I'll marry her to you. She can protect you for the rest of your life." I thought of Lin Yufei. She was beautiful, with eyes like clear springs and a spirit as bright as a spring flower. More importantly, she had unknowingly inherited my third life, Sword Dao. She was a force to be reckoned with. "Are you blushing?" my father laughed. "That girl spent half her childhood sneaking into your bed at night. You weren't this shy back then." I looked away, feeling the heat in my face. He truly loved me. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the air grew cold. The red clouds turned to gray. "It's getting late," my father said, looking at the darkening road. "Let's find a place to rest. We'll finish the journey at dawn." I spotted a ruined temple nestled in the woods not far away. My father, Lin Yi, saw it too and began walking toward it. "Sister," Lin Jun whispered from the shadows, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "It looks like that temple will be your burial ground." He had been trailing us from several dozen meters away, waiting for the light to fade. As they say, a dark moon and high winds make for a perfect killing night. We stepped inside the temple. It was hollow and derelict. A dust-covered Buddha statue sat at the far end, fronted by an incense burner thick with rust. It had been years since anyone had offered prayers here. In the center of the hall lay some half-burnt wood and a pile of dry sticks. My father walked to the center and began gathering the wood. He struck a flint, and soon, a small fire crackled to life, casting long, flickering shadows against the stone walls. "Chun'er, take this," he said, pulling a wrapped roasted chicken from his robes. "Eat. You need your strength." Hongfeng City was over 100 miles from Tianyuan town. We had been traveling all day without a proper meal. We were both starving, so we started eating quickly, the sound of the crackling fire the only noise in the room. Asterisk tap. 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 Asterisk. "Who's there?" My father froze, a half-eaten chicken wing still in his hand. He stood up abruptly, his eyes narrowing at the darkness beyond the entrance. "You two seem very relaxed," a voice called out. Lin Jun stepped into the light, a faint, mocking smile on his lips. He looked down at us as if we were already corpses. "At least you'll die on a full stomach. You're the deacon from the great elder's courtyard." My father spat, his face turning pale with rage. "He sent you, didn't he?" My father's teeth were clenched tight. He hadn't recovered from the internal injuries Lin Hua had given him earlier. Lin Jun had followed us into the wilderness, waiting for the dead of night to strike. The intent was clear. The great elder wanted us erased. Without a second of hesitation, my father dropped his food and lunged in front of me. His tall, muscular frame blocked me from view like a shield. "Chunner, I'll hold him off," he whispered, his voice steady and iron-willed. "Run. Don't look back. Just run." He began circulating his chi. He was at the peak of the blood-melting realm, but he was struggling. "Run." Lin Jun laughed, the sound dripping with disdain. "What touching fatherly love. Too bad neither of you is leaving this place alive. You both die tonight." Lin Jun didn't want to waste any more time. He stepped forward, his chi surging into his right arm. He unleashed a powerful palm strike, the wind whistling with lethal intent. "Get back," my father roared. Knowing Lin Jun was a fourth-level God communication realm expert, my father didn't hold back. He ignited his cultivation to the limit. Purple gold palm. He struck out with a royal-grade technique. Even though he was outmatched and injured, he pushed the move to its absolute peak. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to buy me seconds. "Chinner, go." Purple light flared as their palms collided. The shockwave was massive. My father's arms shook violently, and he was forced backward, his boots skidding across the floor. He crashed into the fire, scattering the burning logs everywhere. The flames died instantly, plunging the temple into suffocating darkness. "I underestimated you." Lin Jun's voice drifted through the dark. A branch family member actually mastered the purple gold palm to the great success stage. But you're still too weak. Let me show you what the real purple gold palm looks like. The air began to howl. Purple light gathered around Lin Jun's hands, glowing brighter than my father's ever had. He had reached the stage of entering the realm. He moved like a blur, the purple palm print slamming toward my father's chest. "Damn it!" My father's eyes flashed with desperation. As the strike neared, my father raised his arms to meet it. He used the momentum of the impact to propel himself toward me. He grabbed my shoulder and threw me toward the temple door with all his might. "Run!" Then, he turned back and charged at Lin Jun, completely ignoring his own safety. He was offering his life as a distraction. I landed near the doorway, but I didn't keep running. "You're seeking death," Lin Jun screamed. He hadn't expected such a suicidal move. If I escaped, the great elder would have his head. His chi exploded. His hand curled into a jagged, blood-red claw. A crimson light flickered in the dark temple. "To die by the royal-grade blood-sucking claw is an honor," Lin Jun hissed, his face contorting into a mask of madness. "I haven't killed anyone since I mastered this. You're the first." The red claw tore through the air, creating a vacuum of bloody wind. I stood by the door, my lips curling into a tiny, cold smile. It was funny, really. In this, my 10th reincarnation, the first person I was going to kill was a piece of trash in the God communication realm. If the great emperors from my past lives heard about this, they'd laugh themselves to death. Lin Jun and my father were locked in a life-and-death struggle. Neither of them noticed that I had vanished from the doorway and reappeared right behind the Buddha statue, directly behind my father. "Die!" Lin Jun cackled. The red claw bore down on my father. His purple gold palm was being shredded, his defense collapsing. As the claw aimed for his skull, my father caught a glimpse of the doorway out of the corner of his eye. Seeing that I was gone, a peaceful, satisfied smile touched his lips. If I lived, his death meant something. Crack. At that exact moment, the entire temple was suddenly enveloped in a terrifying, ancient energy. A beam of light, sharp enough to tear the night sky apart, erupted from the darkness. It shot straight toward the space between Lin Jun's eyebrows. How is this?" Lin Jun's red claw froze inches from my father's head. His eyes bulged. He stared past my father's shoulder, his face filling with a level of horror that defied words. In that brief flash of divine light, he saw me. He saw the useless boy standing there with a calm, steady gaze. The beam that had just pierced his skull hadn't come from a weapon. It had come from my eyes. This was a technique that even a sea manifestation realm expert couldn't pull off. Yet here it was, coming from a 16-year-old boy who hadn't even opened his meridians. Fear and regret flooded Lin Jun's mind. He realized too late that the Lin family of Hongfeng City hadn't provoked a weakling. They had provoked a monster. Thud. Lin Jun's thoughts died with him. Blood leaked from the hole in his forehead, and he collapsed to the floor, his eyes still wide with terror. Lin Jun fell straight backward, his body hitting the floor with a heavy thud. My father, Lin Yi, stood there with his eyes wide, completely dumbfounded. He was still shaking. Lin Jun's final attack had been terrifyingly powerful. My father's scalp still felt numb, and his forehead throbbed with the phantom sensation of being torn apart. He had already accepted his death. He never expected Lin Jun to just collapse like that, without any warning. Wary and alert, my father cautiously approached the body. When he saw Lin Jun's face, his expression shifted to one of pure shock. Lin Jun's eyes were bulging, his features twisted in a hideous mask of agony. But the most striking thing was the thumb-sized hole right between his eyebrows. Fresh blood was still geysering out of it. My father gulped hard. He quickly gathered some nearby kindling and started a fire, lighting up the entire ruined temple. Chinner. He finally noticed me. I was sitting on the ground beneath the Buddha statue, my face deathly pale. He rushed over and helped me sit closer to the fire. He probably thought I had tried to sneak back in to help him. Didn't I tell you to run? He snapped, his face hardening. He was trying to look angry, but I could see the sigh of relief in his eyes. He knew my personality too well. There was no way I would ever leave my adoptive father to die alone. Father, look on the bright side. We're both okay, aren't we? I gave him a weak smile. My body was just too fragile right now. It could barely handle the pressure of a soul-based attack. This is truly strange, my father muttered, frowning as he scanned the temple. His gaze eventually landed on the weathered Buddha statue. I once read in an ancient text that supreme masters can kill people from thousands of miles away using only their intent. Could this statue be a likeness of some great figure? He couldn't explain Lin Jun's death any other way. To him, the statue must have manifested its power. He quickly stepped forward and straightened the statue, bowing deeply. Thank you, Senior, for saving our lives. Once we return to Tianyuan town, I will find men to help repair your temple. Chinner, we need to leave this place and find a new spot to rest, my father said, looking back at Lin Jun's corpse. The whole situation felt eerie to him, and he was worried. If Lin Hua had sent one assassin, more might be coming. Once news of this reached Hongfeng City, they wouldn't just let it go. I didn't argue. I tried to stand up, but the world spun violently. I nearly face-planted back into the dirt. What's wrong? My father was quick, catching me before I hit the ground. His face was full of concern. I'm fine, father. Let's just go. Inside, I was cursing my luck. I hadn't opened my meridians yet, and this body was pathetic. My soul power from 9 reincarnations was massive, but using the Eye of Destruction just now had drained almost every drop of blood chi I had. I focused inward, looking at the base of the Great Void Creation technique. There sat a crystal-clear, glowing fruit, the 9-turn creation fruit. The runes on its surface were becoming fuller and more vibrant. It was almost ripe. Once it matured, I could use it as a catalyst to connect with the world's spiritual energy and open my meridians. In my 9th life, my meridian awakening had triggered a phenomenon that stretched for 10,000 miles, and I had condensed 9,999 spiritual meridians. I was curious to see how many I could open in this 10th life with a divine embryo body and the creation fruit as my guide. I couldn't wait to start. We had only walked a few dozen meters away from the temple when, whoosh, the building behind us erupted into a massive pillar of flame. At that exact moment, tens of thousands of miles away in a magnificent golden hall, an old monk in a golden kasaya looked up. He held a wooden bowl in his withered hands as he stared toward the horizon, specifically toward the great Yin Empire. When did such a powerhouse appear in our borders? The monk whispered, his face tight with caution. That energy, it rivals a Saint Realm expert. With a flick of his finger, a sliver of Buddha light vanished into the air. Chinner, look. The temple is on fire, my father cried out, stunned. I remained calm. Smart move, I thought. A mere great master realm expert actually thought he deserved to have my father repair his temple? There had been a tiny soul imprint left inside that statue, likely left there years ago by someone practicing the Buddhist path of gathering incense to temper their body. That person wasn't stupid. They felt the ripple of my soul energy and immediately destroyed the temple to erase any trace of themselves. They were terrified of attracting a top-tier powerhouse or getting tangled in a karmic debt they couldn't pay. Stealing incense across territories is a major taboo, after all. After that, we didn't linger. My father hurried us through the night toward Tianyuan town. Even though Lin Jun was dead and the evidence was burned to ash, he was still terrified that Lin Hua would strike again. He needed to talk to his father. When we finally reached the Lin family estate in Tianyuan town, the sound of a hand slamming against a table echoed through the room. That ungrateful bastard Lin Hua. He deserves to die. The man shouting was an old, white-haired man in a gray robe. This was my adoptive grandfather, Lin Mingyi. He was fuming. This is unacceptable. I'm going to the Lin family in the city to demand justice. Without that jade spirit marrow, Chen'er will never be able to open his meridians. I have to get it back. He was a hot-tempered man, and he started heading for the door immediately. The rest of the family in the room looked just as furious. Father, wait. Don't be impulsive, my father urged, grabbing the old man's arm. Going to Hongfeng City right now is a suicide mission. Then what do you suggest? The old man roared, turning his glare on my father. And you? How could you be so foolish? You gave him the jade spirit marrow before he even agreed to help Chen'er? You're useless. If Chen'er can't open his meridians, I'm holding you personally responsible. My father didn't talk back. He just stood there with a guilty, sheepish smile. Suddenly, the anger vanished from the old man's face. He turned to me, his expression melting into a warm smile. Don't worry, Chen'er. I'll find a way. Even if I have to exhaust my entire life's cultivation to help you, you will open those meridians. Grandfather, I'll be fine, I said, feeling a wave of genuine warmth. I'll open them on my own. You don't need to worry yourself. It was a strange feeling. Even though I was 16 and still a useless person who hadn't awakened, the entire Lin family in Tianyuan town treated me with nothing but love. No one looked down on me. My grandfather treated me better than his own son. This 10th reincarnation was starting off quite well. Brother Chun, did you succeed? Did you open them? A crisp, sweet voice rang out. A young girl about 14 or 15 years old came skipping into the room. She wore a pale yellow dress and had a face as bright as a spring flower. Her skin was like white jade, and her eyes were clear and full of life. She ran straight to me, naturally grabbing my arm and hugging it close as she looked up at me expectantly. This was my father's daughter, Lin Yufei. She was a natural talent, already a rising star at her young age. Yufei was a natural talent. By the age of 12, she had already opened her meridians and stepped onto the path of martial arts. Her talent for swordsmanship was nothing short of brilliant. At her young age, she had already reached the 9th stage of the meridian opening realm. But I knew something she didn't. This little girl had inherited a sword intent seed, a fragment of my own power scattered across the world from my 3rd reincarnation. Not yet, I said, looking at her youthful, beautiful face. I reached out and gently rubbed her hair. Brother Chun, I'm a grown-up now. Stop rubbing my head. Yufei's face turned bright red. She looked up at me, pouting her lips in protest. She even straightened her posture, trying to look more mature, though I wasn't sure what she was trying to prove. My hand stayed right where it was. Her protest was useless. Father, Yufei said, still clinging to my arm as she turned to Lin Yuan. Didn't you take Brother Chen to Hongfeng City to ask the Great Elder for help? Why didn't it work? My father sighed. He had just been interrogated by his own father, and now his daughter was grilling him too. He explained everything that had happened. That's horrible, Yufei cried, clenching her small fists. A faint ripple of spiritual energy and sword intent radiated from her body. I'll definitely get revenge for Brother Chen one day. I'm so glad I didn't go to the Lin family in Hongfeng City for the qualifiers last year. They're disgusting. Don't worry about me opening my meridians anymore, I told them. Looking at the 3 of them, my grandfather, my father, and my sister, I felt my heart soften. I wasn't made of stone. Their genuine care moved me. I could feel the 9-turn creation fruit within my soul beginning to ripen. I knew my time was coming soon. Master, you're finally back. A middle-aged man named Lin De rushed into the room, his face pale. We just got word. Lu Jian has returned from the Guiyuan sword sect. He's back specifically for the three-family competition. Lu Jian? What's his cultivation level now? My father asked, his expression darkening. The Guiyuan sword sect was one of the three major sects of the Dian Empire. Lu Jian, the son of the Lu family head here in Tianyuan town, was a gifted youth. He had opened his meridians at 13 and was scouted by a powerful master who took him away as a disciple. Tianyuan town was ruled by three families, the Lins, the Lius, and the Luos. Outside the town sat a low-grade spirit stone mine, the lifeblood of the local economy. Whoever controlled that mine controlled the resources. Years ago, the families fought bloody wars over it. Eventually, the regional authorities stepped in and established a rule. Every 3 years, the families would hold a competition for youths under 18. The winner's family would control the mine for the next 3 years. The Lin family hadn't won in 6 years. We were struggling. We had hoped Yufei, at the peak of the 9th stage, would finally win it back. But now, Lu Jian was back. I heard he's reached the 3rd stage of the blood-melting realm, Linda said solemnly. The Lu family had controlled the mine for 9 years now, and their younger generation was thriving because of it. If we lost again, the Lin family would be in serious trouble. Chen'er, Yufei, you two head out first, my father said. He didn't want to pressure us. Little Chun, you still haven't opened your meridians? Linda asked, noticing me for the first time. He looked genuinely concerned. He had watched me grow up and knew how hard I worked. Not yet, I said simply. You all talk. We'll leave you to it. I led Yufei out of the room. Behind us, I heard Linda ask if there was really no hope for me. My father's voice was heavy as he mentioned an emergency plan, buying expensive meridian-opening liquid from a master Zhu if all else failed. The family was desperate. Father, I heard my father say to my grandfather after a long silence. If Chen'er can't open his meridians, I want to betroth Yufei to him. What do you think? The boy has a strong heart, my grandfather replied. Doing that now might hurt his pride. I'm an old man with one foot in the grave anyway. After the competition, I'll exhaust my life's energy to force his meridians open myself. I walked away, hearing their sacrifices. A short distance later, we passed the family training grounds. 6 young men were there. When they saw us, they stopped their practice and gathered around. The oldest was Lin Shan, Lin Da's son. He was a sturdy guy at the peak of the meridian opening realm. Brother Chun, Lin Shan said, patting my shoulder with a grin. I heard you went to the main branch. Still no luck. Still no luck, I replied. Hey, don't feel down, Lin Shan said warmly. So what if you don't open them? When my uncle retires, you'll be the family head. I'll be right there to back you up. We're brothers. Together, we can break anything. Right, guys? Right, the others shouted. I looked at their faces and smiled. Their energy was infectious. The 8 of us formed a circle, stacking our hands one by one. Lin Shan's hand was on the bottom, then mine, and finally Yufei's small white hand on top. Go, Lin family, we shouted together. At midnight, I opened my bedroom door. My eyes flashed with a light that seemed to pierce the darkness. I slipped out of the house silently, heading toward Qingyu Mountain outside of town. The creation fruit was finally ripe. My soul had spent 100,000 years being tempered in the void before condensing into a primordial altar and descending into this body. The Lin family had given me so much warmth over these years. Even if I never opened my meridians, they would have protected me. But if a soul that had survived 10 reincarnations couldn't even protect his own family, that wouldn't be a reincarnation, it would be a joke. I had wanted to teach my father and grandfather powerful techniques many times, but I couldn't. Not yet. I knew exactly what I had to do. I knew the dangers of power without the strength to protect it. If I revealed a top-tier cultivation technique now, it would only attract predators. An ordinary man carrying a priceless treasure is just asking for a death sentence. I had seen it happen 1,000 times in my past lives. If I opened my meridians without the help of the creation fruit, the surge of energy would be catastrophic. I would likely swallow every bit of spiritual energy in the entire Tianling prefecture, causing a disturbance that would alert the most powerful entities in this world. I was on my 10th reincarnation. I knew the value of staying low. I wasn't about to become someone else's prey before I even reached my peak. So I waited. For 16 years, I waited for the first creation fruit of the Taishu technique to ripen. I stepped into the woods of Qingyu Mountain. My movements were fluid, faster than any human I could follow. To an outsider, I was just a boy who hadn't even opened his meridians. But as I moved through the darkness, golden runes flickered faintly beneath my skin. I knew these paths by heart. A low howl echoed through the valley. A massive wolf, 3 meters long with fur as white as fresh snow, bounded toward me. Its eyes glowed with intelligence, and its powerful limbs carried it across the clearing in a single leap. It skidded to a stop and rubbed its head against my shoulder. Its silver fur was incredibly soft. "What's wrong, little wolf? Did you miss me?" I asked, patting its head. The silver moon snow wolf nodded eagerly. It understood every word. This was a mutated beast I had rescued 2 years ago. Back then, I was tempering my body on this mountain when I found 2 beasts locked in a death struggle. A mother wolf had died fighting a flame bear. I was going to use the mother's blood to strengthen my physique, but I realized she was pregnant. The pup was special, a mutant with an ancient bloodline. I raised her here in the valley and taught her how to cultivate. She was good company during my lonely nights of training. "Have you been lazy lately?" I teased. The wolf let out a fierce roar in response. Silver light rippled through her fur, and a heavy pressure radiated from her body. She looked at me with pride, like a child showing off a good grade. "Not bad," I said, nodding. "You've reached the 3rd rank." In this world, human cultivation starts at the meridian opening realm, followed by blood melting, spirit communion, sea of chi, nascent soul, creation, true martial, great grandmaster, great power, venerable, half-saint, and finally, the saint realm. Beast ranks are simpler, from 1 to 9. A 3rd rank beast is equivalent to a human in the spirit communion realm. With her beastly physique, most human experts at that level wouldn't stand a chance against her. In this kingdom, the strongest experts are only at the great power realm. In a small place like Hongfeng City, a sea of chi master is a king. My little wolf was already a powerhouse. She wagged her tail, thrilled by the praise. "Watch my back," I told her. I walked to a flat stone deep in the valley and sat cross-legged. My heart hammered with anticipation. In my previous 9 lives, I had reached the pinnacle, but it never felt perfect. This time, I had tempered my soul in the void for 100,000 years. I had nourished this body with the purest energy. I didn't just want to be strong, I wanted the supreme Tao body. I closed my eyes. In my mind, an ancient, weathered scroll appeared, covered in dense golden runes. With a single thought, the runes flew off the parchment and began to circulate through my body. 16 years. I had spent 16 years polishing this physical shell without ever absorbing a drop of spiritual energy into my core. It wasn't because I couldn't. It was because I was waiting for this exact moment. "Time to begin," I whispered. The Taishu creation technique roared to life. A vortex formed around me. The wind picked up, and the space around the valley began to warp. Time itself seemed to slow down. I felt a surge of joy. To affect time and space at the very start of cultivation was unheard of. In my 9th life, I couldn't do this until the nascent soul stage. By midnight, the entire mountain went silent. Every bird and beast fell into a deep, unnatural sleep. I was using a primordial altar to build my body and a creation fruit to open my meridians. No one in history had ever attempted this. Inside my soul, a massive, glowing tree stood tall, the Taishu creation tree. At its base, the first fruit pulsed with crystalline light. I pushed my 9-turn reincarnation art to the limit. The golden runes spun faster and faster, dissolving the fruit into a milky white spiritual liquid. The liquid surged into my pathways. One by one, spiritual meridians began to snap open. 10, 50, 100. In seconds, my body was a map of glowing, interconnected lines. It looked like a giant web of light. Most geniuses are lucky to open 10 meridians. I was currently sitting on hundreds. The more meridians you have, the more energy you need to level up, but the power you can unleash is terrifying. "Condense," I barked. My hands flew into a series of complex seals. The energy from the fruit and the surrounding valley converged on me like a tidal wave. Nearby, the silver wolf watched with wide, terrified eyes as her master finally stopped hiding his true self. The spiritual energy of the entire valley began to converge on me. Actually, it wasn't just the valley. It felt like the entire Qingyu Mountain was being drained. Deep within the mountain, at the Liu family's spirit stone mine, the guards were panicking. One guard rushed up to Liu Kai, the family's third elder, his face pale with terror. He reported that the spirit stones were acting strange, but Liu Kai already knew. It wasn't just the mine. From the early hours of the morning, Liu Kai had watched as the natural energy of the world flowed toward a single point in the deep woods. Even the stones they had already mined were losing their luster, their essence being sucked away by an invisible force. As dawn broke, a streak of divine light cut through the sky. The mountain was bathed in a hazy glow. The guards watched in awe as the spiritual energy moved through the air like flowing water, all heading toward the depths of the forest. One guard asked if they should investigate, but Liu Kai snapped at him immediately. He wasn't a fool. To cause a disturbance this massive, even the Liu family's ancestor wouldn't be capable of it. If they stumbled in and disturbed such a powerhouse during their cultivation, the entire Liu family might be wiped off the map. He gave a strict order. No one was to move. Anyone who let their curiosity get the best of them would be executed on the spot. Meanwhile, an old man named Hu Ishui was sitting cross-legged in another part of the mountain. He bolted upright, his eyes wide with shock. He was a powerful cultivator, yet even he couldn't stir the world's energy like this. His first instinct was to investigate, but he quickly pulled his foot back. He didn't want to play with fire. Instead, he decided to stay far away and practice his own swordsmanship. As he moved, something strange happened. Hu Ishui had been stuck on the 9th movement of his 13 Swords of Passing Years for over 5 years. But today, under the influence of the shifting energy, his movements became fluid. He felt a sudden, profound clarity. He realized that the presence of this mysterious master was actually helping him understand the laws of the world. He began to swing his sword frantically, chasing that feeling as sword light danced around him like falling flowers. Back in town, the people of Tianyuan were in an uproar. The sky above Qingyu Mountain was filled with thousands of meters of auspicious clouds. It looked like high noon even though the sun had barely risen. The town head, Lu Chong, stared at the horizon in disbelief, ordering his men to find out what was happening. I, the cause of all this chaos, remained perfectly still. I was encased in a massive cocoon of spiritual energy. The silver wolf stood guard nearby, her fur standing on end, ready to tear apart anything that moved. Inside my body, the transformation was staggering. The creation fruit had opened 10,000 spiritual meridians. They looked like a complex web of white light, perfectly interconnected. With a single breath, I could feel a terrifying amount of power surging through me. However, I realized my new body was a bottomless pit. Despite devouring the fruit and draining the mountain's energy, I had only reached the 7th stage of the meridian opening realm. I wasn't disappointed. With my experience from 9 past lives, I knew how to break through quickly, but I wanted a perfect foundation this time. I stood up, and the energy cocoon around me shattered like an eggshell. The shards melted into the stone beneath my feet, turning the plain rock into a piece of translucent jade glowing with ancient runes. The silver wolf ran to my side, whining excitedly. I patted her head and told her she did a good job. I gave her the jade stone I had just created, a meditation stone, as a reward. I told her to stay here and train, and to find me in Tianyuan town if she ever faced danger. She was a mutated silver moon wolf. Bringing her home now would only bring trouble to my family. As I headed back, I moved so fast I left blurred shadows behind. The wolf watched me go, then sat on the stone to begin her own cultivation. On my way out, I sensed a familiar sword intent. I spotted the old man, Hu Ishui, practicing his forms. I recognized the technique. It was a version of a style I had actually created in a previous life. He was doing it wrong, though. His version was full of holes. Since we met by chance, I decided to give him a gift. I flicked my wrist, sending a spark of light flying toward his forehead. It contained the true, complete version of the technique. I didn't wait for a reaction. I had to get home before my sister, Yufei, noticed I was gone. Hu Ishui felt a sudden jolt. He was furious that someone had interrupted his meditation, but before he could shout, a sword shadow began to dance in his mind. Every move was perfect. Every flaw he had struggled with was gone. This is the real 13 swords, he gasped. He snapped his eyes open, desperate to thank the master who had enlightened him. But the forest was silent. I was already long gone. Huishue bowed deeply toward the empty forest, his sword tucked away. He shouted into the silence, promising that if I ever needed anything, he would go through fire and water to repay the favor. He stood there for a long time before letting out a self-deprecating laugh. A master of my level would never actually need help from someone like him. I walked out of the Qingyu Mountains with a faint smile on my lips. The forest was crawling with people now. The massive energy surge from my cultivation earlier had clearly drawn every scout and curious traveler in the region. I didn't care. I blended into the shadows and headed straight for Tianyuan town. Back at the Lin family estate, panic had set in. My sister, Yufei, was frantic. She had spent the entire night practicing, and the moment she saw the strange phenomena in the mountains, she ran to find me. When she saw my room was empty, she assumed the worst. My father, Lin Yuan, frowned when he heard the news. He knew how much my pride hurt because I couldn't open my meridians. He feared I had done something reckless. He immediately ordered everyone to go out and search for me. Even my grandfather, Lin Mingyi, looked worried. He stared toward the mountains, his face pale. If the Lu family found me out there alone, I wouldn't stand a chance. The old man didn't hesitate. His spiritual energy flared, and he sprinted toward the forest. I was casually walking down the main street of Tianyuan town when a group of teenagers blocked my path. Leading them was Lu Ku, the second son of the Lu family head. He had a long, rat-like face and tiny eyes that were nothing more than slits. The rest of his crew looked just as strange. It seemed bad genetics ran in the Lu family. Lu Ku sneered at me. He started mocking my father for wasting time at the Hongfeng City branch, trying to change my fate. He called me a waste and a stray, laughing about how I was nearly 16 and still hadn't opened a single meridian. His friends joined in, calling me a bastard child who didn't even belong to the Lin bloodline. I looked at them, my expression calm. I wondered where they got the courage. Even without my meridians open, I could have beaten all of them to death with my bare hands. A cold, killing intent flickered in my eyes. I didn't like crushing ants, but some people just begged for it. My silence scared them. Lu Ku flinched, his arrogance faltering for a second. Then, he remembered his recent progress. He puffed out his chest and announced he had reached the 9th level of the Meridian Awakening realm. He told me to get on my knees and kowtow 3 times if I wanted to live. He was shouting, but I could tell he was just trying to bolster his own courage. He had always been afraid to look me in the eye. I felt the killing intent rising in my soul. I wasn't a merciful man. Now that I had restarted my cultivation, there was no reason to hide anymore. Lu Ku took my silence for fear. He screamed that his brother had returned from the Guiyuan sword sect and that the Lu family would soon rule the town. He lunged at me, his fingers curling into sharp claws aimed at my skull. The crowd gathered around, whispering about how talented he was for his age. They thought I was dead. I was ready to snap his neck when a sharp voice cut through the air. A flash of sword light erupted, forcing Lu Ku to scream and dive away. Yufei landed in front of me, her face twisted in rage. She didn't hold back. Her sword moved with lethal precision, slicing through Lu Ku's shoulder before he could fully retreat. Blood sprayed across the pavement. She ignored the bleeding boy and turned to me, her eyes filled with worry. The cold killer disappeared, replaced by a protective little sister. She asked if I was okay, her hand trembling slightly as she gripped her sword. To me, she was a gentle lamb, but to my enemies, she was a nightmare. Lu Ku clutched his wound, his eyes burning with jealousy. Everyone knew he wanted Yufei, but she never gave him a second glance. He spat at me, calling me a coward for hiding behind a woman. I looked at his ugly, contorted face and spoke softly. I told him he was so hideous that no woman would ever let him hide behind her even if he wanted to. The crowd burst into laughter. The Lu family's rat-like features were a local joke, and I had just poked the bruise. Lu Ku gritted his teeth, his face turning purple. He hissed that the family competition was in 3 days and promised I wouldn't be laughing then. He turned and fled with his lackeys. Yufei let out a sigh of relief and grabbed my arm, pulling me toward home. As we walked, I heard the villagers whispering. They couldn't understand why a genius beauty like Yufei was so devoted to a useless brother like me. We ran into my grandfather just outside our gates. He had been about to head back to the mountains to find me. When he saw I was safe, he let out a long breath. He patted my shoulder and told me not to feel pressured. He said that once the town competition was over, he would sacrifice his own cultivation base to force my meridians open. My heart warmed. I was just a child Lin Yuan had found in the wild 16 years ago, yet this family had given me everything. They were willing to ruin themselves just to give me a chance at a normal life. I looked at the old man and smiled. I didn't plan on letting him sacrifice anything. I decided it was time to stop hiding. I let my spiritual energy flow out, releasing the aura I had been suppressing. Little Chun, you opened your meridians. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, felt the shift in the air. His eyes widened, and his face paled with shock. He wasn't just sensing energy. He was sensing the sheer intensity of it. I had skipped the initial stages entirely. In a single night, I had reached the 7th level of the Meridian Awakening realm. Even my sister, Yufei, hadn't been that fast. She was a sword genius, yet she had only reached the 4th level when she first awakened. I knew it. I knew Brother Chen could do it. Yufei's face lit up with pure, unadulterated joy. She grabbed my arm and started jumping up and down. She looked happier than the day she had awakened her own power. My adoptive father, Lin Yi, let out a long, shaky breath. The shadow that had been hanging over him for days finally vanished. "This is wonderful," he whispered, a proud smile spreading across his honest face. "I always knew you were special." Grandfather was still staring at me, his hands trembling slightly. 7th level in one night. Even that genius from the main Lin branch in Hongfeng City couldn't pull that off. "Dad, we raised this boy," Lin Yi added, his voice thick with emotion. "We know his character. He's got a heart of iron. His future will be limitless." I remained calm. To me, this was a minor achievement, hardly worth a celebration after 9 lifetimes of reaching the pinnacle of heaven and earth. But looking at their faces, I knew it was time to share more. "Grandfather, father, now that I've awakened, there are things you need to know." The two men exchanged a look of confusion. They had always known I was different, but they had never seen me this serious. They followed me into my room, their expressions turning grave. They probably thought I was in some kind of trouble. Once the door was shut, I turned to them and bowed deeply. In my past lives, I was obsessed with cultivation. I was a demon for power, ignoring everything else. But in this life, since Lin Yi found me abandoned in the wild 16 years ago, I finally learned what a family was. This small Lin family in Tianyuan town only had about 100 people, but they had given me a warmth I never knew existed. "What are you doing? Stand up." Both men rushed forward to lift me. I didn't say a word. I circulated my energy, and a blinding light gathered in the palm of my hand. It pulsed with a rhythm that made even my grandfather, a 6th-level God communication realm master, shiver with instinctive fear. With a flick of my wrist, 2 beams of light shot out and entered their foreheads. Information flooded their minds. They stood frozen, their mouths hanging open. I had just given them the Starry Sky Astral Art, a mysterious grade peak cultivation technique. In this region, a technique like that was worth a river of blood. Our family's current technique was only yellow grade middle. The rival Liu family had grown strong recently just by buying a yellow grade high technique for 500,000 spirit stones. Even the powerful branch in Hongfeng City only had a yellow grade peak manual. A mysterious grade technique was something only the top sects or the regional capital could possess. "Little Chun, this is too precious," Grandfather whispered, his voice cracking. He knew exactly what this meant. With this, our family could become a top-tier power within a decade. I smiled at him. "Compared to what you've done for me, this is nothing. To me, this manual was trash, but to them, it was a miracle. The family competition is coming. I'm giving this only to you two. You decide who else is trustworthy enough to learn it." They nodded solemnly. They understood the danger. If word got out that we had a mysterious grade technique, every power in the province would descend on us like vultures. They would protect this secret with their lives, mostly to keep me from being targeted. I didn't stop there. I reached out again and imprinted 3 mysterious grade middle martial skills into their minds. Before they could even process the second shock, I turned and walked out of the room. Inside, Lenny looked at his father. Back then, I just saw a poor baby in the wild and brought him home. I never expected this. A good deed brings a good harvest, grandfather replied, his eyes shining with sincerity. They didn't want to dig into my secrets or interrogate me. They just wanted to protect the boy they had raised. With this starry sky astral art, both of us can finally break through our bottlenecks. Grandfather gripped Lin Yi's shoulder. You're the head of the house. Be careful who you teach. We cannot let any attention fall on Chinner. It would ruin him. I know the stakes, Lenny promised. He paused, looking a bit regretful. It's just a shame this technique is too aggressive for Yufei to practice. Grandfather chuckled. Are you stupid? You think Chinner would leave her with nothing? Lenny blinked, then laughed as he realized his mistake. By the time they walked out, Yufei and I were already gone. Grandfather didn't waste a second. He headed straight for the cultivation room. He had been stuck at the peak of the 6th level for 7 years. No matter what he tried, he couldn't break through. He sat down and began to circulate the starry sky astral art. His body began to glow like a constellation. Even though the natural energy in the air was thin, it rushed toward him like a tidal wave. The absorption speed was 100 times faster than our old family technique. He felt his power surging, the barriers in his meridians shattering one by one. It was time for the Lin family to rise. My grandfather's breakthrough happened naturally. The bottleneck that had held him back for 7 years snapped like a dry twig. This was the power of a heaven-grade cultivation technique. As he reached the 7th level of the spirit-severing realm, he didn't stop. He kept pushing, his body glowing as the starry sky astral art channeled years of stagnant energy into raw power. Meanwhile, my father, Lin Yuan, gathered the 5 most promising juniors of our family at the ancestral hall. Lin Shan and the others looked confused, glancing at the tablets of our ancestors. My father didn't say a word at first. He simply closed the heavy doors and bowed deeply to the shrines. Kneel, he commanded. His voice was heavy, lacking his usual warmth. The boys didn't hesitate. They hit the floor instantly. Swear on your lives and the honor of our ancestors. Whatever you see today, you tell no one, not even your parents. If you speak a word, may heaven strike you down. The boys paled, but they took the oath. Once they finished, my father's expression softened slightly. You are the future of the Lin family. From today, you will stop practicing our old techniques. I am granting you a heaven-grade cultivation art. The room went silent. Lin Shan gasped, his eyes wide. Father, did I hear that right? Heaven-grade. Even the youngest, Lin Dong, knew what this meant. Not even the main Lin branch in Hongfeng City possessed a technique of this level. My father began to teach them the starry sky astral art by word of mouth. As he spoke, he realized something that made his heart skip a beat. When I had taught him the technique earlier, I had used a soul brand. That was a high-level skill only masters in the Qi-Si realm could use. He looked toward the door, his shock growing. He realized he didn't truly know the boy he called his son. By noon, the session ended. The juniors were shaking with excitement, desperate to go home and start practicing. My father watched them leave, his own hands trembling. Even he, a man at the peak of the blood-melting realm, felt the urge to start training immediately. With this technique, he was only one step away from the spirit-severing realm. While the men were busy with their new power, I followed my sister, Lin Yufei, back to her room. Lie down, I told her calmly. Her face turned bright red. Big brother? It's the middle of the day. What are you doing? Are you going to scratch my back again? I almost choked. Scratch her back? I had spent years using my unique 9 heaven meridian smoothing technique to secretly refine her body, and she thought I was just helping her with an itch. If the holy maidens of the great sects knew I was doing this for free, they would have cried with envy. I'm not scratching your back, Yufei, I said, trying to keep a straight face. Just lie down and close your eyes. She looked nervous, but did as she was told. Over the years, I had expanded her meridians until they were as wide as rivers. Now that I had finally opened my own meridians, I could use my spiritual energy to complete the final step, body meridian fusion. It's going to hurt, I warned. I'm going to fuse your meridians directly into your flesh. You need to endure it. I raised my hands, and the air in the room hummed. Every drop of natural energy was sucked toward us, swirling into a vortex. I channeled it all into her body. Yufei's brow furrowed, sweat beading on her forehead as the energy tore through her, but she didn't make a sound. She trusted me completely. Merge, I shouted. A complex golden rune formed between my palms and sank into her chest. Yufei gasped. The pain vanished, replaced by a sensation of infinite space. Her meridians were no longer just paths for energy. Her entire body had become a vessel. She could now hold 10 times more power than any normal cultivator. I prepared to draw back my energy, but then the air shifted. A sharp, piercing intent exploded from her body, nearly blowing the windows out. A pillar of sword light shot toward the ceiling, invisible to the town but blinding to my eyes. I stared at her, stunned. A golden sword phantom flickered within her soul. She possessed the ancient supreme sword physique. I couldn't help but smile. No wonder my lost inheritance, the azure lotus sword intent, had found its way to her. With that physique and my secret techniques, her future was limitless. She might even surpass the heights I reached in my third life. As the energy settled, the room began to glow with the rhythm of her new power. The rise of the Lin family had truly begun. Terrifying sword intent crisscrossed through the air, vibrating with a sharp, metallic hum. Outside, the members of the Lin family froze, their faces turning upward in shock. Look, above the manor, someone shouted. A massive beam of sword light hung suspended in the sky directly over our home. It was sharp, piercing, and radiated a pressure so intense it felt like it could puncture a person's soul just by looking at it. Where did that come from? What is happening to our family? The clansman whispered in fear and awe. Lin Jian stared at the sky, his face pale. Brother, that light, it's coming from Yufei's room. Linda looked toward the courtyard, his eyes flashing with realization. He knew Yufei was a sword prodigy, but this was different. She must be breaking through to the blood-melting realm. She's triggered a phenomenon of heaven and earth. He didn't waste a second. He knew this kind of display would draw every eye in Tianyuan town. Lin Jian, go to her room immediately. Guard the door. No one enters. Lin Su, take the strongest warriors to the main gate. Block anyone who tries to force their way in. I'm going to find the family head. Linda was right to be worried. A breakthrough that summoned heavenly visions meant Yufei's talent was monstrous. She was now the hope of the Lin family's rise, which meant the Lu and Luo families would likely try to kill her before she could grow. Outside the Lin manor, a man in a grayish-white robe stood in the shadows, his eyes fixed on the fading glow. This was Hu Yishui, the great elder of the returned Origin Sword sect. He had been practicing the 13 plucked flower swords in the nearby mountains, but after hitting a wall in his cultivation, he had wandered into town. He stroked his beard, intrigued. A tiny, remote town like this actually produced someone who could trigger a sword vision? Meanwhile, at the Lu family residence, the atmosphere was much darker. Master, it's confirmed. The second elder, Lu Cheng, reported to the family head. The sword vision is coming from the Lin family. It's almost certainly Lin Yufei breaking through. Lu Cheng, a man with a sharp, rat-like face and narrow eyes, felt a cold surge of killing intent. He knew all about Yufei. A year ago, at only 14, she had gone to Hongfeng City and defeated opponents 2 stages higher than her. The main Lin branch had wanted her then, but my grandfather had refused, saying she was too young. They had given her until she was 16 to join them. That deadline was fast approaching. That bitch, Lucas spat, standing nearby. He had been obsessed with Yufei for years, but she treated him like dirt while following me, a useless boy, around like a shadow. So what if she breaks through? She's still nothing compared to my brother. My brother is right, a new voice chimed in. A young man in light green robes walked out, his aura flaring arrogantly. This was Lu Jian, the eldest son and an outer disciple of the returned Origin Sword sect. Jianer, you've reached the 4th level of the blood-melting realm. Lu Cheng gasped in delight. Lu Jian smirked. Thanks to the spirit liquid you gave me and the high-grade yellow tear techniques from my sect. Don't worry, father. Once I become an inner disciple, I'll get us even better manuals. The Lin family is nothing. But they are a branch of the Hongfeng City Lin family, Lu Chong muttered, his brow furrowed. Killing them might bring trouble. Lu Jian let out a cold laugh. My master is a deacon of the sect. The Hongfeng Lins won't risk offending him for a dead branch family. Besides, I've invited my master here to Tianyuan town. He has a weakness for young beauties. If the Lin family resists, we'll just give him Lin Yufei. He'll handle the fallout. Back in the room, the sun was setting. The sword light in the sky condensed into a single shadow and plunged downward, merging into Yufei's body. She snapped her eyes open. A terrifying aura bloomed around her like a lotus flower. She grabbed her sword and lunged forward, her movements a blur. The blade whistled through the air, creating a dense web of energy that shaped itself into a blooming lotus. Azure Lotus Sword Script. 13 swords in one, she whispered. The lotus shattered into 13 distinct beams of light, all striking forward at once. Oh no, my room, Yufei cried out, suddenly realizing where she was. It was too late. The 13 beams slammed into the wall. There was a clean crack, and the entire front of the room, stone, wood, and mortar, disintegrated into perfectly even, square blocks that tumbled to the ground. Lin Jian, who was guarding the door, stared at the rubble in total shock. The wall hadn't just been destroyed, it had been precision cut as if by a master craftsman. I stood in the corner, a small smile playing on my lips. The ancient supreme sword physique was truly terrifying. In such a short time, she had already mastered the first stage of my third life secret technique. With that one strike, most cultivators below the 7th level of the blood-melting realm wouldn't even stand a chance. Yufei stared at the ruins of her room, looking like a child who had just broken a neighbor's window. She saw Lin Jian standing there, frozen in shock. Fearing she'd be scolded for destroying family property, she hurried over to him, her head hanging low. But Lin Jian didn't look angry. He had watched her break through to the blood-melting realm and execute a sword technique so advanced it defied logic. He wasn't going to yell, he was ecstatic. It's fine, he said, a massive grin spreading across his face. I'll have men come and repair this immediately. He looked at Yufei with glowing eyes. He could feel it. Even though he was at the peak of the 6th level of the blood-melting realm, he wasn't sure he could have blocked that single strike. The Lin family was finally rising. He knew the Lu family's star pupil, Lu Jian, had returned from the Guiyuan sword sect, but rumor said he was only at the 3rd level. He wouldn't stand a chance against Yufei. The competition is already decided, Lin Jian muttered to himself, trembling with excitement as he hurried out of the courtyard. That was weird, Yufei whispered, watching him go. Uncle Jian is usually so stingy. He hates it when we waste family resources. I can't believe he didn't give me trouble. She giggled. The Lin family had been short on spirit stones for years, and as the man in charge of the finances, Lin Jian usually counted every single penny. You've reached the peak of the 2nd level of the blood-melting realm, I said, looking at her playful expression. In the upcoming competition, you're guaranteed to take 1st place. That means our family gets the mining rights for the spirit stone vein for the next 3 years. Why would he be mad at you? I couldn't help it. She looked so cute that I reached out and flicked her forehead. Ow. Brother Chun, how did you know? She asked, her eyes wide with shock. I used my sword intent to hide my cultivation. Even Uncle Jian only knew I broke through, not that I hit the 2nd level. I just smiled. In my eyes, she had no secrets. I looked her over and noticed she seemed taller and more poised since her breakthrough. I didn't tell her the truth, that the technique she was using came from my very own 3rd life. Of course I could see through it. You're a meanie, Brother Chun, she pouted, her face turning a soft shade of red. She reached out and naturally took my arm, leaning into me with a shy smile. Outside the Lin estate, a man named Hu Ishui stood watching. He had seen the sword light descend and felt a surge of curiosity. He approached the gates, but Lin Su, the 3rd elder, stepped forward to block him. Lin Su couldn't sense any power from the old man, but he remained cautious. Is your clan leader in? Hu Ishui asked, his eyes flashing with hidden depth. I'm sorry, Lin Su replied politely. Our leader entered secluded cultivation at noon. Hu Ishui didn't push. He simply nodded and walked away into the crowd. One of the younger men near Lin Su asked who the old man was, but Lin Su just shook his head. He didn't know if the man was a commoner or a powerhouse in the Qi realm. Following my grandfather's orders, he wasn't going to offend anyone he couldn't read. Time blurred past. Soon, the day of the three-family great competition arrived. Tianyuan town was alive with energy. People packed the streets, heading toward the massive martial arts plaza at the center of town. The air was thick with shouting and anticipation. Linny, you actually broke through to the God communication realm. Lu Chong, the head of the Lu family, arrived with a group of disciples and two elders. His face twisted into a scowl the moment he felt my father's new aura. Just a bit of luck, clan leader Lu, my father replied with a hearty laugh. Since I gave him the starry heavenly firmament script 2 days ago, he had soared straight into the first level of the God communication realm. Before, it would have taken him years. He glanced at me, knowing exactly who to thank. Luo Yin, the head of the Luo family, also looked grim. In a small place like this, someone in the God communication realm was a force of nature. Where's your father? Lu Chong asked, his voice dripping with spite. Is he too old and frail to show his face? My father is doing just fine, my father replied, ignoring the jab. He led us to the Lin family seats and sat down. Oh look, has the eldest young master still failed to open his meridians? A mocking voice drifted over. It was Lu Jian. Before I turned 10, I was the undisputed genius of the town. Even though Lu Jian was older, I used to beat him soundly with nothing but raw physical strength. He had spent his whole life in my shadow, and now that I was useless, he couldn't wait to rub it in. None of your business. Yu Fei snapped, stepping in front of me like a protective lioness. I remained calm. I didn't even look at him. I'd seen 1,000 geniuses like him across my 10 lives. They were all talk. Don't worry, Yu Fei, Lu Jian sneered, his eyes burning with hatred. During the matches, I'll show you exactly what a disciple of the Guiyuan sword sect is capable of. Suddenly, a burly man in green robes landed in the center of the arena. A long sword hung at his waist. This was Kang Yun, the town mayor and a Qi realm expert sent by the county governor. The rules are simple, Kang Yun announced. This is a spar. Do not take lives. Let the competition begin. Lin Shan, let's see if you've improved at all in 3 years. A youth named Lu Tang leaped into the ring. His aura exploded, the peak of the first level of the blood-melting realm. He had lost to Lin Shan in the last competition and had been obsessed with revenge ever since. The crowd erupted. The real fight was finally starting. Lu Tang has reached the peak of the first level of the blood-melting realm, one villager shouted. I heard Lin Shan was stuck at the peak of the meridian opening realm for over a year, another replied. I wonder if he even dares to accept the challenge. The crowd buzzed as Lu Tang stood tall in the center of the arena. In previous years, these competitions started slowly with weaker disciples. But the Lu family was aggressive today. They wanted to dominate from the very first breath. If you want to fight, I'll give you one, Lin Shan said. He stood up, his burly frame cutting an imposing figure. With a single, quick step, he blurred across the distance and landed firmly in the ring. Lu Tang's eyes narrowed as he felt the energy radiating from my cousin. You actually broke through to the blood-melting realm? The audience gasped. Two geniuses, both at the blood-melting realm, facing off right at the start. The atmosphere turned electric. Why? Lin Shan asked with a calm smile. Did you think you were the only one allowed to improve? I watched from the sidelines, knowing exactly why Lin Shan was so confident. It was the starry sky astral art I had given him. That top-tier Earth-grade manual was leagues above anything these people had ever seen. The difference in cultivation speed and power was like comparing a stream to an ocean. So what if you broke through? Lu Tang snarled. I'll still crush you. Lu Tang lunged. His spiritual energy surged as he aimed a heavy palm strike directly at Lin Shan's chest. If you want a head-on clash, you're looking at the wrong man, Lin Shan grunted. His aura exploded. It was violent and heavy, instantly suppressing Lu Tang's energy. Lu Chong, the head of the Lu family, squinted at the stage. I could see the killing intent flickering in his eyes. He saw the Lin family's rise as a threat to his goal of ruling Tianyuan town. Father, don't worry, Lu Jian whispered from his seat, his face full of disdain. No matter how much he improves, he'll be a loser under my feet later. Jinner, where is your master? Lu Chang asked, frowning. Lu Jian's eyes flickered with hesitation. He had told his father that his master from the Guiyuan sword sect would come to help wipe out the Lin family. But the truth was, he was just a lowly servant disciple at the sect. His master, Wang Ying, only kept him around because of the bribes our family sent. In 3 years, Wang Ying hadn't even given him 5 pointers. He had no idea if the man would actually show up. On the stage, the fight intensified. Lu Tang's palms moved like a gale, whistling toward Lin Shan's heart. Lin Shan didn't flinch. He clenched his fists, letting his inner power roar. Boom. Fist met palm. The shockwave sent dust flying. They traded blows in a blur of motion, the sound of their impact echoing like thunder. Get back, Lin Shan roared. He unleashed the Benlei fist, a royal-grade technique. His movements carried the weight of rolling thunder. Lu Tang was forced back, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. He couldn't believe he was being pushed around by someone who had just broken through. I'll show you my great cleaving palm. Lu Tang screamed in frustration. 3 years ago, you weren't my match, Lin Shan said coldly. Today is no different. Silver lightning began to crackle around Lin Shan's fists. The air hummed with raw, violent energy. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, gasped. Little Shan has reached the entering the realm level of mastery with the Benlei fist. Martial arts mastery is split into 5 levels: initial, success, entering the realm, proficient, and perfection. Most people take a decade to reach the 3rd level. Lin Shan had done it in weeks. Damn you, Lu Tang shouted, trying to block. The moment their limbs collided, silver lightning surged into Lu Tang's body. He screamed as the numbing pain paralyzed his arm. Lin Shan didn't hesitate. He followed up with a barrage of strikes, sending Lu Tang flying out of the ring. Lu Tang hit the ground hard, coughing up a mouthful of blood. You lost, Lin Shan said simply. He wasn't arrogant. He knew this victory came from the starry sky astral art. He realized now that the world was much larger than this town. Defeating a small fry like Lu Tang was nothing to brag about. Lu Jian stood up, ready to jump into the ring to attack Lin Shan, but his father pulled him back. Lu Chang turned his gaze toward the Luo family seats. Master Luo, I believe it's your turn. I heard your son has already reached the 2nd level of the blood-melting realm. The crowd went silent. A 2nd-level expert at that age? That was unheard of in Tianyuan town. Luo Yin, the head of the Luo family, looked grim. Only a few people knew about his son's breakthrough. It meant he had a traitor in his inner circle. The news travels fast in this small town, Luo Yin said through gritted teeth. Father, since they already know, there's no point in hiding it, Luo Cheng said, standing up. He was thin and pale, radiating a cold, eerie energy. He released his aura, and the pressure made the nearby spectators gasp. He wasn't just at the 2nd level. He was at the peak of it. Lin Shan, you're not my match, Luo Cheng sneered, leaping onto the stage. Get lost. Lin Shan didn't back down. He squared his shoulders, his eyes burning with resolve. Let's find out. You asked for it, Luo Cheng hissed. He moved like a ghost, his spiritual energy flowing like a dark river as he lunged forward. Luo Cheng didn't waste any time. He reached for the long sword at his waist and drew it in one fluid motion. The silver blade flashed under the sun, whistling through the air as he lunged at Lin Shan with a sharp burst of sword chi. Bring it on, Lin Shan shouted. Instead of backing away in fear, Lin Shan's eyes burned with an intense fighting spirit. He charged forward, narrowly dodging the lethal edge of the blade. His fists blurred as he unleashed the thunderclap punch. He had mastered the technique to the point of perfection. Spiritual energy swirled around his knuckles, and I could hear the faint, crackling sound of lightning as he struck. You think that's enough to dodge my swift wind sword? Luo Cheng sneered. This is the Luo family's mid-rank imperial technique. Luo Cheng's movements became faster and more erratic. His sword transformed into a blur of silver light, raining down strikes from every angle. Clang, clang, clang. The sparks flew. At first, Lin Shan held his own, using the raw power of his thunderclap punch to deflect the blades. But after 10 exchanges, the gap in their cultivation started to show. Lin Shan began to stumble back, his breathing heavy. Lin Shan is going to lose, someone in the crowd whispered. The swift wind sword is no joke, and Luo Cheng is at the peak of the second level of the blood-melting realm. No matter how hard the Lin family fights, they're all destined to fall to Lu Jian anyway. The Lin family disciples were fuming. Luo Cheng is shameless. Lin Du barked, his fists clenched tight. He can't beat Brother Shan on skill, so he's just using his higher cultivation to bully him. If they were at the same level, Brother Shan would have flattened him by now. It's a pity our thunderclap punch is only a low-rank imperial technique, another youth muttered. If we had something better, Luo Cheng would be begging for mercy. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, overheard them. He looked at the boys with a stern but fatherly expression. Victory and defeat are part of life. Don't let your anger cloud your judgment. He glanced at me out of the corner of his eye. I knew what he was thinking. Our family actually possessed a profound, mysterious grade technique now, the starry sky astral art I had given them. If these kids knew the truth, they'd probably jump out of their skins with excitement. I hadn't let them show it off yet because drawing too much attention from the wrong people would be dangerous. We understand, Patriarch, the boys replied, their eyes filled with a new resolve. They were clearly determined to master the new cultivation method I had shared with them. Brother Shan is going to lose, Lin Yufei whispered beside me. She pouted, her brow furrowed with worry. She hated seeing our family members get hurt. I reached out and gently rubbed her head, my expression calm. He just broke through to the first level. Facing a mid-rank sword technique with a low-rank fist technique and holding on this long? He's done well. Not far away, Lu Ku saw me touching Yufei's hair. His face twisted with rage, his eyes turning bloodshot. He looked like he wanted to bite me. I'll get her, he hissed through gritted teeth. One day she'll be mine. His brother, Lu Jian, patted his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll make sure you get that woman. And as for Lin Shun, I'll take care of that trash for you. I just want to kill him, Lu Ku spat. Look at his face. He's always so calm, so composed. It drives me crazy. I want to stomp that look right off his head. Lu Jian nodded, his own eyes narrowing. He hated my composure too. In Tianyuan town, I had always acted like everything was under my control, even though I couldn't even open my meridians. To them, I was just a loser acting like a grandmaster. Back on the stage, the fight reached its breaking point. Die! Luo Cheng roared. His sword flashed in a cruel arc, tearing through Lin Shan's shoulder. Blood sprayed across the stone floor. Lin Shan stumbled back, clutching his wound, but Luo Cheng didn't stop. He lunged forward with killing intent in his eyes, aiming his blade straight for Lin Shan's heart. He wasn't trying to win a match anymore. He was trying to end a life. Luo Cheng, stop! My grandfather shouted. He bolted from his seat, his newly reached God-sensing realm aura exploding outward as he rushed toward the stage. But Luo Yin, the Luo family head, was ready. He intercepted my grandfather, his hands hooked like claws. Boom! The two collided, and my grandfather was forced to a halt. Die! Luo Cheng screamed again, his face contorted in a hideous grin. He unleashed the ultimate strike of the swift wind sword. Get back! Lin Shan bellowed. He poured every ounce of his remaining energy into his fists, swinging wildly at the incoming blade. Crack! The sword chi slammed into him, sending him flying through the air. He hit the ground hard, his chest a bloody mess. Brother Shan, Lin Su and the others rushed to his side. Lin Shan coughed up a spray of blood, but managed to sit up with their help. I'm fine. Not dead yet. My grandfather retreated to our seats, his face dark with fury. Luo Yin, the Lin family will remember this debt. Brother Chun, Yufei's voice was cold now. She stood up, her hand gripping her sword hilt. She didn't wait for a word from me. She marched straight onto the stage, her eyes burning with a lethal chill. She was only sweet and gentle when she was with me. To everyone else, she was a fierce cultivator. Luo Cheng looked at her and smirked. Lin Yufei, I've heard you're a prodigy. Tell you what, if you lose, why don't you just marry me? It's better than hanging around that useless Lin Shun, right? Die, Yufei said. The air around her suddenly turned freezing. A powerful sword chi erupted from her body. She raised her blade and swung. The sword let out a high-pitched hum, and a wave of energy shaped like a blooming lotus surged toward Luo Cheng. What powerful sword chi! Kong Yun, the town governor who had been silent until now, sat up straight. His eyes widened. She's at the second level of the blood-melting realm? The crowd gasped. Yufei was barely 14 years old. Even the town's golden boy, Lu Jian, hadn't reached the second level at that age. Her technique was elegant, mysterious, and terrifyingly sharp. Even my grandfather stared in shock. When did Yufei break through to the second level? I just watched, a small smile playing on my lips. They had no idea what she was truly capable of. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, turned to look at me, his eyes searching for answers. I just shrugged my shoulders and held up my hands, looking as innocent as possible. I gestured that I had nothing to do with her sudden power spike. He clearly didn't believe me, but he didn't have time to press me. On the stage, Luo Cheng's face went pale. The lotus-shaped sword light radiating from Yufei's blade sent chills down his spine. The arrogance he had moments ago vanished instantly. He didn't dare hold back, frantically swinging his sword to perform his wind-lingering technique to block her path. "You're the useless one," Yufei snapped. She was clearly still fuming because he had insulted me. Her aura surged, and the lotus shadows around her blade multiplied, filling the air. There was a sharp metallic clash. Before Luo Cheng could even track her movement, a cold flash of light streaked past his eyes. Yufei's sword moved like a blooming flower, elegant yet lethal. A scream of pure agony ripped through the arena. Luo Cheng's sword clattered to the floor, followed by a spray of crimson. His right arm was severed at the shoulder. He stumbled back, clutching the stump. If he hadn't flinched at the last second, she wouldn't have just taken his arm. She would have taken his head. I stood below the stage and shook my head slightly. This girl was really going all out to get justice for me. "Lin Yufei, you ruined me," Luo Cheng roared. His face was contorted with rage, his eyes bloodshot. For a swordsman, losing a right arm meant his life was over. He lost all reason and lunged at her, desperate to take her down with him. Yufei didn't flinch. Her eyes were cold, filled with a murderous intent that surprised even me. In her mind, anyone who insulted me deserved to die. She gripped her hilt, ready to finish him off. I narrowed my eyes, my own power simmering just beneath the surface. I scanned the crowd, my gaze icy. If anyone tried to interfere or hurt her, they wouldn't live to regret it. "Cheng'er," Luoyin shouted. He lunged forward, spiritual energy erupting from his body as he grabbed his son. For a split second, a purple glow flickered deep in my eyes, ready to strike. But when I saw that Luo Yin was only rescuing his son and not attacking Yufei, I let the light fade. "Father, my arm, she destroyed my life," Luo Cheng howled, the pain finally catching up to his voice. My grandfather quickly stepped up to the stage, standing beside Yufei to shield her. The Luo family elders stood up as well, their faces grim. Their brightest talent was now a cripple. Suddenly, a dry cough echoed through the square. Everyone turned toward the main seat. Kong Yun, the town governor, spoke with a calm but piercing voice. The rules of the three-family competition were set by the county lord. "I don't care how you fight, but you will follow the rules." It was a clear warning to the Luo family. The crowd whispered, realizing that Kong Yun was now protecting Yufei. Her talent had earned her a powerful backer. Luo Yin gritted his teeth, forced to swallow his rage as he dragged his son back to their seats. Deep in the crowd, the old monk, Hui Shui, watched with burning eyes. "First, I find the true lotus sword technique, and now I find a genius like this," he whispered to himself. He had been ready to jump in too. He realized now that the strange phenomenon over the Lin estate a few days ago wasn't a fluke, it was her. Nearby, the Lu family patriarch, Lu Chong, frowned deeply. "Jinner, why isn't your master here yet?" He was shaken. Yufei hadn't just reached the second level. She had crushed a peak second-level opponent in one move. Lu Jian remained calm, his expression arrogant. "Master must be delayed by something." "Don't worry, father. Even if she beat that trash Luo Cheng, she's nothing to me. I'll handle her." "Are you sure?" Lu Chong asked. The stakes were the mining rights to the Qingyu Mountain. The family couldn't afford to lose. "She's just at the second level," Lu Jian scoffed, standing up. I'll show her the power of a peak-grade imperial weapon from the Guiyuan sword sect. He leaped onto the stage, letting his aura explode. The crowd gasped. He was at the 4th level of the blood-melting realm. The Lu family disciples started cheering wildly, screaming his name. Lin Yufei, you're no match for me, Lu Jian said, chin held high. Surrender now. Yufei didn't look impressed. You talk too much. Lu Jian's face darkened. Fine. Since you want to die, I'll test my new palm technique on you. He roared, his energy swirling like a vortex. Boundless blood sea palm. He stepped forward, his palms glowing with a bloody, terrifying light. The wind howled as he struck. The crowd held their breath. An imperial-grade technique from a major sect was something most of them had never seen. They assumed Yufei's streak was over. Even Hu Yishui frowned, recognizing the sect's move. But Yufei remained calm. Green lotus bloom, she whispered. 13 swords in one. Her arm blurred. 13 streaks of sword chi erupted simultaneously, weaving into a deadly net of light. Governor Kong Yun stood up again, his eyes wide with shock. This wasn't a normal technique. It was far too advanced for a small-town family like ours. Lu Chang watched in horror. He turned to his daughter, Lu Ku. Didn't you say she was only at the 9th level of body refining 4 days ago? She was, father, Lu Ku stammered. I saw her outside town. Greed flickered in Lu Chang's eyes. First the grandfather breaks through, then the granddaughter becomes a monster. The Lin family had clearly found a massive treasure. On stage, Yufei's sword light tore through the bloody palm shadows. Lu Jian's smug smile vanished, replaced by pure terror as the cold steel reached his throat. Lu Jian's smug look vanished, replaced by pure horror. His so-called imperial-grade technique was useless against my sister's sword. The sword light didn't just stop. It tore through his robes and sliced his hair bun clean off. He collapsed 8 meters away, coughing up blood, looking like a ragged beggar. The entire plaza went silent. No one could believe what they just saw. Lu Jian struggled to stand, his face twisted in rage. He had gone to the Guiyuan sword sect specifically to learn that palm technique. How could he lose to a girl from a small-town family? His father, Lu Chang, rushed to his side. He checked his son's injuries and turned pale. Lu Jian was the future of the Lu family. If he didn't recover, losing the spirit stone mine for 3 years would be the least of their problems. Linny, Lu Chang roared, glaring at my father. Your daughter went too far. I demand an explanation. My father stepped in front of Yufei, his expression grim. He knew the situation was dangerous. My grandfather was still in seclusion, and my father had only just reached the God communication realm. If the Lu family decided to ignore the rules of the competition, we were in trouble. My uncles, Lin Su and Lin Jian, quickly moved to back him up, their energy rising. Lu Chang didn't care about the rules anymore. I could see the killing intent in his eyes. He glanced at Governor Kong Yun, who was still sitting quietly, then at his own elders. Lu Zhua and Lu Yi, 2 powerful masters, stepped forward to join him. Lu Zhua was at the peak of the 5th level of the God communication realm. Against them, my father stood no chance. The Lin family is too arrogant, Lu Chang hissed. It's time to end this. The crowd started whispering. They knew the Lu family was going to play dirty to protect their interests. If Yufei was allowed to grow, the Lu family would be overshadowed forever. In their world, might made right, and the Lu family had more masters on the field. In the middle of the crowd, the old monk Hu Yishui was actually smiling. He was waiting for the chaos to start. He figured if he saved Yufei during the fight, she'd be so grateful she'd have to become his disciple. He was convinced that the massive sword chi he'd sensed days ago must have come from her. Lu Chang didn't wait any longer. He lunged at my father with a violent palm strike, the air screaming around his hand. He wanted blood. The 2 Lu elders followed right behind him, aiming to crush our family in one move. Suddenly, a cold snort echoed across the plaza. A wave of suffocating pressure crashed down, stopping the Lu family in their tracks. You think the Lin family is an easy target? A voice boomed. It was my grandfather, Lin Mingyi. He had finally finished his seclusion. Thanks to the star firmament technique I gave him, he hadn't just broken through his old bottleneck. He had surged straight to the 8th level of the God communication realm. He threw 2 punches, the wind pressure alone sending Lu Zhua, and Lu Yi flying backward. Lu Zua hit the ground, his face pale with shock. He stared at my grandfather as if he were looking at a ghost. He knew my grandfather had been stuck at the 6th level for years. Reaching the 8th level so quickly was impossible. Lu Chang and my father traded blows and backed away from each other. Lu Chang's heart was pounding. He looked at my grandfather, his mind racing with greed and jealousy. He was certain our family had found a hidden treasure in the mountains. There was no other way we could have improved this fast. Just as the tension reached a breaking point, Governor Kong Yun finally stood up. He walked into the center of the plaza, his eyes scanning my grandfather. I saw a flicker of surprise in his gaze. He knew that if he let the 3 families kill each other, it would look bad on his record. But more importantly, he saw the potential in my sister. He knew that with her talent, the main Lin branch in Hongfeng City would likely take her in. He decided right then whose side he needed to be on. Governor Kong Yun wasn't a fool. He didn't want to offend my family anymore. He realized it was better to grant us a favor now, knowing it might pay off later. Governor Kong, Lu Chang stammered, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. We wouldn't dare. He looked at my father and grandfather, his eyes full of resentment. The fact that the Lin family members were breaking through their cultivation bottlenecks one after another had clearly caught the governor's attention. If you don't dare, then follow the agreement, Kong Yun declared, his voice booming across the plaza. I officially announced the Lin family as the winners of this year's 3-family competition. Within 3 days, the Lu family must withdraw all personnel from the Green Spirit Mountain stone mine and hand over control to the Lin family. The crowd gasped. The way people looked at us changed instantly. No one expected my grandfather to reach the 8th level of the God communication realm. Combined with my sister's terrifying talent, the Lin family was about to become the undisputed power in town once we secured that mine. Thank you, Governor Kong, my father said, a wide smile breaking across his face as he bowed. What's this? Is the Lu family unwilling? Kong Yun frowned, noticing Lu Chang hadn't moved. The governor's aura as a Siqi realm expert flared up, heavy and suffocating. Of course not, Lu Chang spat out, his face pale. The Lu family obeys. He had no choice. Kong Yun was appointed by the Lord of Tianling Prefecture. Disobeying him was suicide. In the Great Yin Empire, which ruled over 49 prefectures, our little Tianyuan town was just a tiny speck under Hongfeng City. We were small fish, and Kong Yun was the biggest shark in these waters. Nearby, the Luo family looked just as miserable. They had been suppressed by the Lu family for years, and now that they thought they might have a chance to rise, my family had suddenly skyrocketed past them. I heard Lin Yuan took Lin Chun to the main branch in Hongfeng City recently. Luo Yin whispered, his face grim. They must have received help from the main house. His heart burned with hatred. He had pinned all his hopes on his son, Luo Chang, but my sister had crippled the boy's sword hand. He wanted to scream, to tear us apart, but with the governor standing there, he had to swallow his anger. Governor Kong turned to my father and cupped his fists. Congratulations, Master Lin. My father bowed back. He knew exactly why the governor was being so polite. It wasn't out of kindness. It was respect for my grandfather's new strength and my sister's potential. In this world, strength is the only currency that matters. So what if the Lin family won? A sharp, mocking voice cut through the air. It was Lu Ku. He looked like he had just swallowed a fly. Lin Chun is still a useless waste. Lu Ku was trembling with jealousy. He had expected his older brother to beat my sister so he could claim her for himself. Seeing her display such incredible talent only made him want her more and hate me deeper. He couldn't understand why a girl like her was so devoted to a loser like me. Lu Chang, you should teach your son some manners, my grandfather growled. His 8th level pressure exploded outward, his eyes cold and lethal. Before someone else does it for him. My grandfather knew the truth. After seeing the high-grade techniques I gave the family and knowing I had reached the 7th level of Meridian Awakening instantly, he knew I wasn't a waste. I was a genius that would shock the entire prefecture. Lu Ku, if you insult Brother Chen one more time, I will kill you, my sister, Yu Fei hissed. Her sword hummed, and a sharp, terrifying sword intent radiated from her body. Even Governor Kong flinched. He couldn't believe a young girl could possess such a murderous, refined aura. Lin Chun, Lu Ku screamed, stepping forward and pointing a finger at me. Are you going to hide behind a woman your whole life? If you're a man, step out and fight me yourself. The crowd started whispering. They all knew Lu Ku had been obsessed with Yufei since they were kids. They looked at me with pity and contempt, wondering what a talent like her saw in a guy who supposedly couldn't even open his meridians at 16. I felt a cold chill settle in my chest. This guy was really asking for it. I stood up slowly, my expression calm. I had never seen someone so eager to die. In the back of the crowd, the white-haired monk, Hu Ishui, froze. When he heard my voice, his eyes widened. He stared at my face, his heart racing. That voice, why does it sound so familiar? Lu Ku, I said, walking toward the center of the plaza. Are you sure you want to fight me? Ha! Lu Ku laughed so hard he nearly doubled over. Stop acting tough. Everyone knows you can't even open your meridians. If you have the guts, let's have Governor Kong witness it. A life-and-death duel. Do you dare? The crowd went silent. A life-and-death duel meant exactly that. Only one person walks out, and no one is allowed to interfere. Lu Ku was at the 9th level of Meridian Awakening. To everyone else, he was a tiger challenging a house cat. I'll fight you instead. Yufei jumped in front of me, her sword drawn. Chun'er, don't do it, my father urged. He knew I had opened my meridians, but he thought I was too inexperienced to handle a 9th level fighter. Lu Chong sneered, finally feeling like he had the upper hand. Lin Yuan, it looks like your son is nothing but a turtle hiding in its shell. I reached out and gently patted Yufei's head, smoothing her hair. She looked up at me, her eyes fierce and protective. I gave her a small, reassuring smile. If you want to die so badly, I said, stepping past her to face Lu Ku, I'll grant your wish. Brother Chun, no, I won't let you. Yufei grabbed my sleeve, her face full of stubborn worry. Yufei looked at me, her eyes filled with a fierce, stubborn determination. Even though she was young, there was a weight in her gaze that wouldn't let go. She was ready to throw her life away just to keep me safe. I couldn't help but smile. Little girl, I said softly, my voice calm. Have you forgotten how I used to protect you before you even opened your meridians? Do you really think your big brother is a waste? I reached out and gently stroked her cheek. I gave her nose a playful little pinch, teasing her just like I used to when we were kids. She blinked, her anger momentarily replaced by confusion. Lin Chun, Lu Ku screamed, his face twisting with jealousy. Are you a man or not? Stop hiding behind a girl and fight me. He unleashed his aura, the power of a 9th level Meridian Awakening stage practitioner radiating off him like a physical weight. He wanted to crush me. He wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. I ignored his shouting and turned back to Yufei. Let me borrow your sword for a second. Lu Ku burst out laughing, a cruel, high-pitched sound. You don't even have a weapon? You have to borrow one from a girl? Lin Chun, if you kneel right now and beg for mercy, maybe I'll let you live. Yufei didn't hesitate. She gritted her teeth, glancing at Lu Ku's arrogant face with pure hatred, and tossed her long sword to me. She knew me better than anyone. She knew that now that I had opened my meridians, a clown like Lu Ku didn't stand a chance. I caught the hilt. The weight felt familiar, yet distant. The crowd started whispering, their voices filled with pity and doubt. They saw a young man who couldn't even cultivate challenging a peak Meridian stage fighter. To them, I was a dead man walking. They thought I was just a hothead who couldn't handle being insulted. I raised the blade, pointing it directly at Lu Ku. In my 9 previous lives, after the first one ended, very few people had ever been brave enough to challenge me to a life-and-death duel. As my fingers tightened around the grip, something shifted. The air around me grew heavy. My posture changed. I wasn't just a boy anymore. I was a king standing over his kingdom. Lu Ku's smile faltered. For a split second, he looked like he wanted to run. He felt a sudden, icy chill wash over his entire body. He tried to look into my eyes, but he couldn't hold my gaze. No, he muttered to himself, his voice trembling. He's a waste. I'm at the 9th level. Killing him is as easy as stepping on an ant. He roared, his spiritual energy exploding outward as he lunged. He used his strongest move, a mid-grade earth rank technique called the split mountain palm. 2 massive palm prints, fueled by a howling wind, flew straight toward my chest. The crowd gasped. Some people closed their eyes, unable to watch the slaughter. I didn't move. I didn't even circulate my spiritual energy. I stood there, watching the attack close in, my sword hanging loosely at my side. "Is he frozen in fear?" someone shouted. "He's looking for death," another cried. Yufei's hands clenched into fists, her knuckles turning white. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, suddenly appeared by her side, grabbing her arm to keep her from jumping into the fray. The palms were inches from my skin. Then I moved. It was a single, silver flash. A movement so fast it didn't seem to exist. Luca's palm stopped exactly 3 inches from my chest. The wind died down. The spiritual energy vanished. I stood there with the sword in my hand, looking as if I hadn't moved at all. Luca stayed frozen, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. He blinked, his eyes wide and confused. He tried to move his arms to finish the strike, but he realized he couldn't feel them. He couldn't feel his legs. He couldn't even feel his own breath. He tried to speak, but his lips only quivered. The plaza went silent. "What happened?" someone whispered. "Why did Luca stop?" In the back of the crowd, the old monk Hu Ishui stood frozen, his eyes filled with absolute shock. He was a master, yet even he hadn't seen the strike clearly. He only knew one thing for certain. Luca was already dead. I had cut him clean in half, and I had done it so quickly that his body hadn't even realized it yet. Hu Ishui stared at me, his mind racing. He remembered the mysterious master from the mountains who had taught him the 13 sword styles. The voice, the aura, the impossible speed. It all pointed to the teenager standing in the center of the plaza. But how could a boy with no spiritual fluctuations be that man? Governor Kang Yun stood up, his eyes narrowing as he watched me. I remained calm, my expression indifferent. Killing Lu Ke felt no different than swatting a fly. "Lu Ke." Lu Chang's voice trembled as he stepped toward his son. A tiny line of red appeared around Lu Ke's waist. A second later, blood sprayed outward like a fountain. Lu Ke's upper body slid off his waist, crashing into the dirt with a wet thud. His eyes were still open, staring at nothing, while his legs remained standing for a few agonizing seconds before collapsing. The silence turned into a collective scream of horror. I wiped the blade clean and handed it back to Yufei. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The entire plaza erupted into chaos. People stood there with their mouths hanging open, frozen in disbelief. They couldn't wrap their heads around what they had just seen. One moment, Lu Ke was standing there, full of life and arrogance. The next, he was literally in 2 pieces. I just shook my head. Honestly, that was the first time I'd ever seen someone so eager to die. My expression remained calm as I walked back to Lin Yufei and handed the long sword back to her. I gave her a small smile. "See? I told you it would be fine," I said softly. Yufei stared at me, her eyes wide. She knew I had opened my spiritual meridians and reached the 7th level of the Meridian Awakening realm, but she had no idea my swordsmanship was this lethal. She had never even seen me pick up a blade before today. "Brother Chun, your sword skills, they're incredible," she whispered. "They're all right," I replied, reaching out to gently ruffle her hair. A beautiful, innocent smile spread across her face. In her heart, she had always known her brother Chun could never be ordinary. But the silence didn't last. Lu Chang let out a guttural roar as he rushed to his son's mangled corpse. His eyes were bloodshot, his face twisted in a mask of pure rage. "I will kill you," he screamed. His spiritual energy exploded, swirling around him in a violent frenzy. He was at the 2nd level of the God communication realm, and he didn't hesitate. He lunged at me, his palm glowing with lethal intent. I didn't blink. I didn't have to. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, had been waiting for this. With a cold snort, he vanished from his spot and reappeared directly in front of me. He raised a hand, and with a casual flick of his wrist, he sent Lu Chang flying backward. "Lu Chang," my grandfather shouted, his voice booming across the plaza. "This was a life-and-death duel. Your son is the one who proposed it. He lost because he was weak. You have no one to blame but yourselves." Grandfather narrowed his eyes, and a terrifying pressure began to leak from his body. He had recently broken through to the 8th level of the God communication realm, and it showed. He stood tall, radiating power. "If the Lu family wants a war to the death," he growled, "the Lin family isn't afraid to give it to you." Lu Zhua and Lu Yi rushed to Lu Chang's side, their faces grim. They knew they stood no chance against my grandfather, even if they fought him together. Lu Chang grit his teeth so hard I thought they might shatter. The Lu family will remember this, he hissed. Just you wait. He turned on his heel and stormed off, not even bothering to collect his son's body. You're all dead, Lu Jian shouted, glaring at me with pure hatred before following his father. My master is on his way to Tianyuan town. When he gets here, every single one of you will die. Lu Oing watched them go, her eyes filled with frustration. How could a boy who couldn't even open his meridians pull off a strike like that? That sword move had been too fast. Even someone in the god communication realm would have struggled to block it if caught off guard. Deep in the crowd, a middle-aged man watched me with a heavy expression. He was a spy sent by the great elder of the Lin branch in Hongfeng City to investigate the disappearance of Lin Jun. Seeing my grandfather's new strength and my impossible sword skills, he realized things were spiraling out of control. He slipped away quietly, needing to report back immediately. Brother Chun, that was insane. Lin Shan and the other younger cousins swarmed around me, their faces flushed with excitement. Luke, who was always acting like a big shot because of his brother, he got what was coming to him. I told you guys, another cousin chimed in. Even if Brother Chin couldn't open his meridians, he'd still be a legend. They remembered how I used to be. When I was 8, I was already hunting beasts in the mountains using nothing but my physical strength. Before the meridian issue, I had even beaten Lu Jian when he was at the 3rd level of awakening. People had spent the last 2 years forgetting who I was. Today, I reminded them. As we walked back, the people of Tianyuan town parted for us like the Red Sea. They looked at the Lin family with a mix of awe and envy. Grandfather walked with his head held high, looking years younger thanks to his breakthrough and our victory. We had won back the rights to the Spirit Stone mine. The Lin family was back on top. Later that night, the atmosphere in the Lu family estate was the exact opposite. Lu Chang slammed a teapot against the floor, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. The red glow of the setting sun bled into the hall, but the air inside was cold and heavy. Damn it, he roared. How did that old man Lin Mingyi reach the 8th level? And how did Linny break through too? Even Lin Shan reached the blood-melting realm, Lu Zhua added, his brow furrowed. They must have found some kind of treasure. Could it be related to those strange omens from the mountains? Lu Kai asked. He had just rushed back from the mine after hearing about the defeat. Lu Chang turned his sharp gaze toward Lu Jian. Is your master actually coming? We spent a fortune to get you into that sect. If he doesn't show up, we're in trouble. Lu Jian looked uneasy. He's a deacon of the Guiyuan sword sect, father. He's busy. Even if he took our money, if something else comes up, he might not come at all. The room fell silent. If we took back the mine, the Lu family would be finished within 3 years. If only our ancestor could break through to the Siqi realm, Lu Zhua sighed. It's been 3 years with no word from his meditation, Lu Chang snapped. We can't rely on that. We need a plan now. The eldest elder, Lu Wen, cleared his throat. He was a man who had seen much of the world beyond our small town. I have 2 ideas, he said, his voice raspy. First, we have 3 days before we have to hand over the mine. We use every man we have to strip it bare before they arrive. Second, we aren't the only ones who hate the Lins. We team up with the Luo family and crush their businesses. Even if they have a mine, it won't matter if they have nowhere to sell their goods. Lu Chang's eyes lit up. It was exactly what he needed to hear. Do it. Third elder, get back to the mine. Second elder, get the transport teams ready. We're digging that mountain hollow. Even if we had to hand over the Spirit Stone mine on Qingyu Mountain to the Lin family, I knew they were getting a hollow shell. The deeper a mine goes, the harder it is to excavate. The labor and resources required would skyrocket, leaving them with a massive headache. As you command, the second and third elders shouted. They stood up immediately and hurried out to start the operation. Lu Chang then turned his gaze toward the eldest elder, Lu Wen. Great elder, I'll have to trouble you to head to the Luo family. Act as our lobbyist. Rest assured, family head, Lu Wen promised, patting his chest. The Lu family rises and falls together now. I won't fail. While the Lu family was drowning in tension, my home at the Lin Manor was the complete opposite. We had finally won the 3-family great competition. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, was so happy he ordered a feast for all 100 members of the clan. Little Chun, on behalf of the Lin family, I want to thank you. Grandfather raised his wine glass, looking at me as I sat beside my sister, Lin Yufei. His eyes were full of genuine admiration. He had watched me grow up. He always said there was a unique aura about me, something different from other kids my age. I remained calm whether I was being insulted or honored. He knew better than anyone that without me, he wouldn't have broken through to the 8th level of the God communication realm, and my father wouldn't have reached that realm at all. Of course, he kept the source of our secret techniques hidden. He knew that a common man harboring a treasure invites disaster, and he didn't want to put a target on my back. Grandfather, there's no need for formalities, I said, standing up. I am a Lin. This was simply my duty. In this 10th life of mine, I rarely drank. I had spent most of my time tempering my physical body. But I wasn't a killjoy. I picked up my glass and drained it in one go. As the liquid burned my throat, a cold light flashed deep in my eyes. If I had to guess, I said slowly, the Luo and Lu families won't just take this lying down. We need to plan ahead and wipe them out completely. The core members of the family sitting around us nodded in agreement. They knew the Lu family especially would be looking for blood. Little Chun is right, Grandfather said firmly. From today on, we focus entirely on raising our cultivation. Once we take over the mine, all existing spirit stone stockpiles will be distributed to everyone for training. He knew time was of the essence. If that old dog from the Lu family got desperate, things would get ugly fast. I didn't want to ruin the festive mood with more talk of war. I wasn't one for big social gatherings anyway. Once I had my fill of food and drink, I slipped away to a quiet pavilion nearby. Brother Chun, Yufei followed me out, clearly bored by the noise too. She grabbed my arm and leaned her head on my shoulder, looking completely content. Late that night, at the Lu residence, a secret guest arrived. Brother Luo, please sit. Lu Chong greeted Luo Yin with a glint in his eyes. He had sent the great elder to lobby the Luos earlier that day, and while they said they needed to consider it, they couldn't even wait until morning to show up. Family head Lu, how exactly do you want to cooperate? Luo Yin asked the moment he sat down. He didn't waste time. He knew Lu Chong wasn't a saint. Working with the Lu family was like dancing with a tiger. He had to be careful. Lu Chong laughed. Brother Luo is a straightforward man. I like that. He leaned in. You saw Lin Yufei's talent. If the Lin family controls the mine for the next 3 years and pours those resources into her, there won't be a place for our families in Tianyuan town ever again. Luo Yin frowned. Are you suggesting we kill her? Lin Mingyi is at the 8th level now. Killing her under his nose is nearly impossible. Besides, word of her victory will reach the main Lin branch in Hafeng City soon. They'll send experts to recruit her. If anything happens to her, the main branch won't let it slide. You're overthinking it, Lu Chong sneered. Now isn't the time to kill her. But if our two families team up to crush the Lin family's businesses, it won't matter if they have a mine. They'll be too crippled to function. Luo Yin saw the confidence in Lu Chang's face. It sounds like you already have a plan. The Lin family's biggest source of income for years has been the meridian opening liquid, Lu Chang said, his voice dripping with hatred. He could still see his son's dead body in his mind, and the rage burned hot. Luo Yin's eyebrows shot up. The liquid was essential for martial artists in the meridian opening stage. Since the Lins didn't have a mine, they survived on those sales. But that liquid required a rank 2 alchemist. In our town, there was only one, Master Zhu. Years ago, Grandfather had saved Master Zhu from a beast attack, and in return, the alchemist sold his products exclusively through the Lin family. Don't tell me you've recruited a rank 2 alchemist? Luo Yin asked, eyes wide. In the Great Yin Empire, alchemists were high-status figures. Rank 2 alchemists don't grow on trees, Lu Chong replied. However, Master Zhu has agreed to give the sales rights to us instead. Is that true? Luo Yin was suddenly very interested. That liquid was the top-selling cultivation resource in town. The profit margins were huge. Would I lie about this? Lu Chong asked. What does the Luo family need to do? Luo Yin knew there was no such thing as a free lunch. Lu Chong laughed again. I love dealing with smart people. Here's the deal. I'm buying the liquid from Master Zhu at 30 low-grade spirit stones per bottle. Luo Yin froze. The Lin family currently sold it for 25 stones. Lu Chang was paying 5 stones more than the retail price just to get it. No wonder Master Zhu flipped. But at that price, there was zero profit. Are you worried about the money? Lu Chang asked, seeing through him. Yes, Luo Yin admitted. The Lu family has been mining for years. You have deep pockets. The Luo family doesn't. I have to feed my people. Brother Luo, listen. In the beginning, we sell at the Lin family's price. We take the loss. Once we bankrupt them and monopolize Master Zhu's supply, we can set whatever price we want. Once we drive the Lin family into bankruptcy and monopolize the supply, we can set whatever price we want, Lu Chang said, a treacherous smile spreading across his face. I knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to crash the market price of the Meridian Awakening liquid to starve my family of resources. Once we were gone, he'd jack the prices up and bleed the town dry. Luo Yin wasn't a fool. He stared straight at Lu Chang, trying to find a hidden trap. Let's be honest, Lu. If we crush the Lin family, how do I know you won't kick the Luo family out of the deal next? Lu Chang acted hurt. He sighed, looking disappointed. Brother Luo, you still don't trust me? To be honest, I just want revenge for my son. That blood debt must be paid. I only ask for your help when it's time to wipe the Lin family out. Once it's done, my family will stick to mining spirit stones. The liquid? I'll leave the entire sales market to you. It was a lie. I knew Lu Chang's heart. He planned to use the Luo family to destroy us, then root them out immediately after. He wanted the whole town for himself. But the offer was too tempting for Luo Yin. The Luo family had been struggling for years, just like us. I hope you keep your word, Luo Yin finally said. He had no choice but to take the risk. The next day, the sun beat down on the Lin family estate. What? 40 low-grade spirit stones a bottle. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, shouted. His face turned pale as he stared at the white-haired man sitting in the main seat. My uncles, Lin Su and Lin Jian, stood nearby, looking just as stunned. The man was Master Zhu, a rank 2 alchemist. He had come here specifically to deliver an ultimatum. If we wanted to keep selling his liquid, we had to pay 40 stones per bottle. For years, we had bought it for 20. We sold it for 25. The Lin family just won the mining rights for the spirit mine, Master Zhu said calmly, sipping his tea. He didn't mention a word about how my grandfather had saved his life years ago. He was shaking us down. I've helped your family for years. It hasn't been easy for me. Surely you won't refuse this small increase. Master Zhu, please, grandfather said, his voice tight. We've always been grateful. But we only sell it for 25. Our profit is already tiny. How about we pay you 25 stones instead? Grandfather knew that if the retail price went over 30, no one would buy it. We relied on high volume and low margins. A price hike like this would ruin us. It seems you have no sincerity, Master Zhu snapped. He slammed his teacup onto the table with a loud crash and stood up. Since you want to be ungrateful, don't blame me for being heartless. He stormed out of the hall before grandfather could say another word. He wasn't there to negotiate. He was there to break us. Master Zhu. Wait, a girl's voice cried out. A tall girl in a light blue dress ran after him. She was about 17, with long hair and bright, watery eyes. This was Lin Xianer, my cousin. She had been sent to apprentice under Master Zhu a year ago to help the family. In reality, she was just his unpaid servant. Master Zhu stopped and turned his glare on her. Stop right there. Xianer flinched, looking terrified. Grandfather and the others caught up, their faces full of desperation. Master, let's talk this through. I have nothing to say to the Lin family. Master Zhu sneered. He looked at Xianer with pure contempt. And you thought you could send someone to learn from me? What a joke. From this day on, our ties are severed. Lin Xianer, don't you dare follow me again. The crowd of Lin family members gathered in the courtyard, their faces falling. Xianer's eyes filled with tears. She thought it was her fault, that she wasn't smart enough, and that's why he was leaving. Master, if I did something wrong, punish me, she sobbed, her voice trembling as she started to kneel. Please, don't take it out on my family. I couldn't watch this anymore. I stepped forward and grabbed her arm, stopping her before her knees hit the ground. Sister Xianer, don't kneel so easily, I said, my voice steady and cold. He isn't your master, and he isn't your father. He doesn't deserve this. Exiner looked up at me, startled by the intensity in my eyes. Master Zhu's face turned purple with rage. Good. Very good. Your Lin family truly is ungrateful. No one in this town dares to insult me like this. You old fraud. I spat, staring him down. You talk about ingratitude? We provide the herbs. You charge us 20 stones. We sell it for 25. After labor and costs, we barely make a cent. Now you want 40? You're just greedy. I stepped closer, my voice ringing out like thunder through the courtyard. And don't forget, if my grandfather hadn't saved you 10 years ago, you would have been beast dung in the wilderness. You're the one who forgot who saved his life. As for my sister, she's been with you for a year. Aside from chores, what have you actually taught her? Nothing. The crowd went silent. Every word I said hit like a physical blow. The truth was out in the open, and for the first time, the useless youth of the Lin family was the one standing tall. Everyone in the courtyard knew my grandfather had saved Master Zhu's life 10 years ago. If it weren't for that debt, a man with his greedy personality wouldn't have let the Lin family earn a single cent from his medicine. Now, he was trying to hike the prices to a level that would bankrupt us. He wasn't just being greedy. He was trying to kill our family's livelihood. Master Zhu stood there, his face turning from purple to a deep, embarrassed red. My words had stripped away his mask, leaving him speechless. He couldn't find a single word to refute me. With a sharp huff, he flicked his sleeves and stormed out of the courtyard. Well said, Chun. My father, Lin Yuan, walked over, his face flushed with anger. I should have let that ungrateful dog rot in the wilderness all those years ago. For years, the Lin family had held the exclusive rights to sell the pulse-opening liquid, but the profit margins were razor-thin. Most of the spirit stones ended up in Master Zhu's pockets. We were doing all the work while he got rich. This is likely the Liu family's doing. Lin Jian sighed from the side, his shoulders slumping. Without that medicine, our shops in Tianyuan town will collapse. Our business will plummet. I kept my expression calm. Uncle Jian, don't worry. The pulse-opening liquid isn't some high-level divine elixir. My sister Exiner already knows how to make it. What? Me? Exiner's eyes went wide. She looked at me with total shock, her jaw practically dropping. She clearly had no idea she possessed such a skill. Right, Exiner? I grabbed her arm and gave it a firm, secret squeeze. She felt the weight of everyone's gaze and the pressure of my grip. She didn't understand why I was lying, but she had trusted me since we were kids. If I said she could do it, she would play along. She took a deep breath and nodded stiffly. Lin Jian's face lit up with excitement. He didn't suspect a thing. My father, however, frowned slightly. He knew Exiner didn't have the training, but he chose to trust me. He waved his hand, dismissing the crowd of worried relatives. Before my father could pull me aside for questions, I grabbed Exiner's arm. Sister, let's go for a walk. What is that brat up to now? I heard my father mutter as we hurried away, always being so mysterious. Just let him be. My grandfather snapped, though I could hear the smirk in his voice. Wait for the medicine. Do you really not trust your own son? As we walked, Exiner's face turned a soft shade of pink. She was nearly 18 now, tall and graceful, and as I pulled her along, her arm brushed against me. I realized I was holding her a bit too firmly and quickly let go, feeling a bit of heat rise to my own face. Chun, where are we going? She asked breathlessly. To brew the pulse-opening liquid, of course, I replied. But I don't know how, she cried, her eyes wide with worry. Whenever the master brewed it, he never let me watch. He kept the process hidden. That old bastard, I spat. You served him for nearly 2 years as free labor, and he wouldn't even teach you a simple fluid fusion technique? He has no conscience. In a small place like Tianyuan town, that liquid was treated like a treasure, but to me, it was elementary. Maybe my talent just isn't good enough? Exiner sighed, looking down at her feet. He always said I hadn't reached the standard. I looked at her and felt a pang of annoyance. Exiner had lost her parents young and was the kindest soul in the Lin family. When we were kids, she used to sneak me treats and carry me on her back during games. That old fool knows nothing, I said firmly. You were born with natural soul power. If your talent is bad, then he's a straight-up cripple. If the big sex knew about your potential as a soul master, They'd be fighting each other to take you as a disciple. Soul Master? What's that? She asked, looking utterly confused. She had heard Master Zhu mention soul power before, but even as a second-tier alchemist, his knowledge was shallow. I didn't answer. We had already reached the heart of Tianyuan town. The streets were packed and noisy, dominated by a magnificent three-story building. A golden plaque hung over the entrance, carved with 4 bold words, Heavenly Dragon Chamber of Commerce. Golden dragons adorned the corners, and the roof shimmered with glazed tiles. Chun, why are we here? Xiner whispered, looking intimidated by the opulence. You'll see. I walked inside with my head held high. Well, if it isn't Lin Chun, a mocking voice called out. You haven't even opened your meridians. What business does a useless brat have at the Heavenly Dragon Chamber? I turned to see a young man with sharp, rat-like features. It was Lu Jun, a rising star of the Lu family. He was 23, already at the 5th level of the blood-melting realm, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. I ignored him and kept walking. Don't think that killing Lu Ke makes you a genius, Lu Jun snapped, stepping quickly to block my path. He was a spoiled brat. You only won because you caught him off guard with a lucky sneak attack. The rumors had spread fast. No one believed a youth with closed meridians could kill a 9th-level practitioner in a fair fight. Does the Lu family ever stop hovering like flies? I asked, my voice cold. I had lived in this town for 16 years, and honestly, I was tired of their games. To me, the entire Lu family was a colony of ants I could crush with a thought. Yet, they kept lining up to die. Lu Jun flinched slightly when he met my gaze. He couldn't understand how a powerless kid could stay so calm in the face of a 5th-level warrior. Acting tough? How pathetic, Lu Jun sneered. I think it's time someone taught you a lesson. He released his aura, and a powerful gust of wind kicked up in the lobby, the pressure of his cultivation slamming toward me like a physical weight. I didn't flinch. Get lost. Just as Lu Jun raised his hand to strike me, a deafening snort echoed through the entire Heavenly Dragon Chamber. It sounded like a crack of thunder. Before Lu Jun could even react to his own arrogance, a violent gale swept through the lobby. He didn't even have time to scream. The force blasted him off his feet, sending him flying through the air and crashing onto the hard ground outside. A loud thud followed. The warriors in the lobby, many of them in the blood-melting realm, gasped in unison. A cold chill ran down their spines. Lu Jun had dared to cause trouble in the Heavenly Dragon Chamber, and he had paid the price for his stupidity. Outside, a crowd quickly gathered around the fallen man. Isn't that Lu Jun from the Lu family? Someone whispered. He got thrown out like trash. He must have offended the chamber. Another voice added, the Lu family has been getting way too cocky lately. They actually thought they could mess with this place. Lu Jun scrambled to his feet, blood leaking from the corner of his mouth. He felt the weight of 100 staring eyes. His face twisted with a mix of shame and pure hatred. He didn't dare direct his anger at the Heavenly Dragon Chamber, so he focused it all on me. Lin Chun, you just wait, he hissed under his breath. He kept his head low, scurrying away through the crowd like a beaten dog. He couldn't understand one thing. Why had the chamber thrown him out, but let me stay? Lin Xiner stood beside me, her eyes wide with shock. The Heavenly Dragon Chamber was the top merchant guild in the Star region of the Great Yin Empire. Even a small branch in a place like Tianyuan Town had a powerhouse backing it. I remained calm. Without saying a word, I led Lin Xiner toward the back courtyard. Wait, is that Lin Chun? I heard someone ask behind us. What's he doing here? A sneer followed. Probably looking for herbs to open his meridians. He's 16 and still hasn't awakened. What a waste of talent, even if he did kill Lu Ke. I ignored the gossip. As we reached the back, an old man in a gray robe hurried toward us. He was beaming, his face full of genuine respect. Oh, young Master Lin. What brings you here today? Lin Xiner's jaw nearly hit the floor. The man bowing to me was Xue Song, the president of the Heavenly Dragon Chamber in town. He was a Qi realm expert and a Tier 2 alchemist. Even my grandfather, Lin Mingyi, had to treat him with the utmost politeness. Yet here he was, acting like a servant. She kept glancing at me, trying to reconcile my youthful face with the way this powerful man treated me. I acted like it was the most natural thing in the world. President Xue, I need to borrow the chamber's earth fire, I said plainly. Lin Exiner reached out to stop me. Earth fire was incredibly precious. You didn't just ask to borrow it. But to her surprise, Shuesong's eyes lit up with excitement. It had been 2 years since I last visited. Ever since he saw me prepare Meridian Awakening fluid back then, he had been desperate to learn from me. If he wasn't so worried about his reputation, he would have moved into the Lin estate just to watch me work. Is that all? Shuesong laughed. The earth fire is yours for as long as you need it. He wasn't about to say no. This was his chance to watch a master at work. The usual deal, I said, walking toward the left as if I owned the place. Give me 100 sets of ingredients for Meridian Awakening fluid. I'll give you 5 bottles in return. Lin Exiner followed me, looking like a dazed puppet. She couldn't wrap her head around the fact that I was giving orders to a Tier 2 alchemist. And from the way we spoke, it clearly wasn't the first time. We reached a secluded courtyard where the air hummed with heat. In the center sat a furnace fueled by earth fire. The flames were a deep red, tinged with orange. The temperature was far higher than the furnace Master Zhu used. The quality here was superior. Chun, can we really use this? Lin Exiner asked, her voice trembling with excitement. She had spent 2 years watching Master Zhu, but he never let her touch the flames. Lin Xiao, here are the 100 sets of herbs, Shuesong announced, personally carrying 2 large racks of ingredients into the room. Lin Exiner gulped. She recognized the herbs immediately. 100 sets would cost at least 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. Shuesong had handed them over without blinking. She stared at me, her curiosity reaching a breaking point. How was I doing this? Exiner, watch closely, I said. Refining this fluid isn't hard. For you, it should be easy. I didn't wait for her to respond. I grabbed 4 different herbs and flicked my wrist. They flew into the furnace. My hands moved in a blur, and the earth fire roared to life, wrapping around the plants. This is the first movement of the Taiyin 9 styles, the fire condensing form, I explained. Look at the rhythm. Lin Exiner stared, mesmerized. A few feet away, Shuesong was even more focused, terrified of missing a single detail. Under my guidance, the violent earth fire seemed to dance. The herbs melted rapidly, turning into droplets of pure liquid. With another shift of my hands, the impurities burned away, and the liquids began to merge. Shuesong's heart hammered against his ribs. He had never seen fire control like this. It was beyond anything he had ever heard of. Merge. I snapped my hands together. The liquid fused instantly. A refreshing fragrance filled the room. I waved my hand, and the finished fluid flew out of the furnace, glowing with a crystal-clear, transparent light. Is that ultimate grade fluid? Lin Exiner stammered. She knew from Master Zhu that only a high-level Tier 3 alchemist could produce fluid this pure. Everything clicked for her then. Why Shuesong respected me, why I was so confident. I grabbed some small vials and bottled the liquid. From just 1 set of herbs, I had produced 10 bottles of ultimate-grade fluid. Lin Exiner felt like her world was turning upside down. Master Zhu, at his very best, could only get 4 bottles of standard quality from the same amount of ingredients. I had just redefined everything she knew about alchemy. The most important thing to realize was that most of the fluid Master Zhu produced was low-grade. Even mid-grade batches were rare for him. I looked at the bottles in front of me and then at my cousin. Sister Exiner, give it a try, I said calmly. I didn't have time to dwell on her shock. I tossed 5 bottles of the ultimate-grade fluid to Shuesong and tucked the other 5 into my own pocket. I was currently at the 7th level of the Meridian Opening realm, and this high-quality fluid would be incredibly useful for my own cultivation. Me? Can I really do it? Lin Exiner stammered. She snapped out of her daze, her voice trembling with hesitation. It's fine, I said casually. We have plenty of herbs. If you fail, we just start over. Shuesong nodded quickly, clutching his 5 bottles like they were sacred relics. He had learned so much just by watching me once. He was desperate for me to guide Lin Exiner so he could watch the process again. Miss, please don't worry, he added. Alchemy is built on failure. Since young Master Lin told you to try, go for it. Our Heavenly Dragon Chamber of Commerce has more herbs than we know what to do with. Lin Exiner took a deep breath and summoned her courage. She walked to the herb rack, picked out the 4 necessary ingredients, and stood before the earth fire furnace. She exhaled slowly, and the power of her first-level blood melting realm erupted. Her spiritual energy began to flow. She tossed the herbs directly into the furnace. The fire condensing form. My movements were burned into her mind. She stretched out her slender hands and began to grasp at the earth fire. The flames inside the furnace swirled toward the herbs. At first, her gestures were stiff and awkward, but as she practiced, her speed increased. Her hands became a blur. Young Master Lin, is this really her first time? Xuesong whispered, his eyes wide. It was obvious from her earlier reaction that she had never touched a furnace before. Yes, I replied, showing no surprise. Lin Xiner was born with immense soul power. Controlling fire was all about the soul. Earth fire was the weakest type of flame. With her natural talent and my Tai 9 styles, controlling it was easy. She's a natural genius, Xuesong muttered, completely shaken. Inside the furnace, the four herbs melted completely. Lin Xiner's spiritual energy surged, forcing the liquids to collide. They merged into a single, pure mass of spiritual fluid. With a flick of her wrist, she mimicked my closing gesture. The fluid flew out of the furnace and hovered above her pale palm. It pulsed with pure energy. A mid-grade batch on her very first try. Xuesong felt his face turn red with shame. When he was an apprentice, it took him 6 months just to learn how to merge the liquids and 8 months to produce a successful batch. Now, a 17-year-old girl had done it perfectly on her first attempt. He felt like he should just retire on the spot. Lin Xiner was trembling with excitement. She grabbed a small vial and carefully bottled the fluid. Brother Chun, I did it. I actually did it. She was so overwhelmed that she lunged forward and threw her arms around me, sobbing with joy. For over a year, Master Zhu had refused to teach her anything, constantly putting her down and making her doubt herself. Now, she had produced something better than his best work. All that suppressed frustration and insecurity finally came pouring out. Xuesong watched us, his mind racing. He realized from the way she addressed me that I was also a member of the Lin family from Tianyuan town. He felt a chill run down his spine. Putting aside the fact that I was a complete monster, this girl's talent alone was limitless. I felt her soft warmth and the faint scent of her perfume as she clung to me. I reached out and patted her back gently to comfort her. After a moment, Lin Xiner realized what she was doing. Her face turned bright red, and she quickly pulled away. We had played together as kids, and she used to carry me on her back, but we were adults now. She couldn't even look me in the eye, her heart thumping audibly in her chest. President Xue, I'm leaving Sister Xiner in your hands, I said. Make sure she's guided well. I felt a strange sense of peace. In my previous 9 lives, I had spent millions of years focused only on cultivation. Romance and family were concepts I barely understood. But living these 16 years in the Lin family, treated like a normal youth by Xiner and Yufei, felt incredibly precious. After an eternity of life and death, the path of the ordinary was the most valuable thing of all. Young Master Lin, you flatter me, Xuesong said eagerly. It is my absolute honor to guide Miss Xiner. He wasn't a fool. He saw how close we were. Even though I was an adopted son and had no blood relation to her, my potential and her talent were undeniable. By helping her, he was securing a massive favor from a future alchemy grandmaster. His own status in the Chamber of Commerce would skyrocket alongside hers. Sister Xiner, use the earth fire here whenever you need, I said with a smile. If you run into trouble, just tell President Xue. The Chamber of Commerce has plenty of resources. I turned and walked out. I knew Xuesong was smart enough to treat her like royalty. Thank you, Brother Chun, Xiner whispered to my retreating back. She looked gentle, but she had a spine of steel. She vowed right then that she would never let me down after everything I had done for her. She turned back to the furnace and began again. She worked for 4 hours straight, practicing the fire-condensing form over and over. Out of dozens of batches, she only failed once. Xuesong stood by, completely speechless. Even as a Tier 2 alchemist, he couldn't produce that much fluid in one sitting without exhausting himself. The only explanation was that this girl's soul power was already stronger than his. I've hit the jackpot, Xuesong thought, his heart racing. He needed to report this to the main branch in Tianling County immediately. If he could officially recruit her into the Chamber of Commerce, his future was set. Miss Xiner, you've worked hard, Shuesong said, stepping forward with a smile. He pulled a smooth, round pill from his robe. This is a Tier 2 soul-nurturing pill. Please, take it and rest. You mustn't overexert yourself. Shuesong held out the pill to Xiner. She froze, her eyes widening in shock. She had spent enough time around Master Zhu to know exactly what she was looking at. A Tier 2 soul-nurturing pill was worth at least 100 low-grade spirit stones. It wasn't something you just handed out as a gift. President Shui, this is too much, she stammered, her hands trembling. I can't possibly accept this. Shuesong was a cunning old fox. He wasn't about to let her refuse. He put on his most sincere face and stepped closer. Miss Xiner, please. This is just a small token of my respect. Unless, of course, you look down on me and my Chamber of Commerce. He didn't give her a choice. Xiner bit her lip, her heart racing with excitement, and finally took the pill. As soon as it hit her tongue, a wave of pure energy washed through her body. The exhaustion from hours of refining evaporated instantly. A mysterious power surged into her mind, sharpening her senses until the world felt vibrant and clear. She looked at the furnace. The heat of the earth fire felt different now. She could sense every flicker, every shift in temperature. It felt like the flames were an extension of her own hands. Again, she whispered. She dove back into the work. This time, her control was flawless. The flames obeyed her perfectly, and the medicinal liquid she produced was purer than anything she had made before. Shuesong watched from the sidelines, his jaw dropping. The quality was top tier. Even he, a veteran alchemist, struggled to reach that level of purity. He knew right then that he was witnessing the birth of a legend. While Xiner was busy mastering her craft, I was back at the Lin estate, staring at 5 bottles of top-quality Meridian Awakening fluid. I needed to break through. I sat cross-legged, swallowed all 5 doses at once, and felt a tidal wave of spiritual energy explode inside me. I activated the 9-turn creation technique. My 10,000 spiritual meridians acted like a web of starving predators, devouring every scrap of energy. The air around me began to swirl as the world's essence poured into my skin. I lost track of time. I didn't stop until the first light of dawn hit the window. I let out a long, heavy breath and opened my eyes. A powerful aura rippled out from my body, shaking the room. I was stunned. The 9-turn technique was terrifyingly demanding. It had taken 5 top-tier doses and an entire night of cultivation just to advance one small stage to the 8th level of the Meridian Awakening realm. However, the strength I felt was staggering. With my current foundation at the 8th level, I knew I could crush a peak blood-melting realm expert without even trying. Outside, the peace of the morning was shattered. My father, Lin Yuan, was in the courtyard practicing his palm techniques when Lin Jian rushed in, looking pale and frantic. Master, something terrible has happened. Lin Jian shouted. My father stopped mid-motion, his face darkening. He had sent Lin Jian to the Qingyu Mountain to take over the Spirit Stone mine we had just won from the Liu family. What is it? The Liu family, those bastards. Lin Jian spat, his face red with fury. In the 3 days they had to move out, they stripped every surface-level stone. But that's not the worst part. They took all the waste rock and debris from the old abandoned shafts and used it to bury the main mine tunnels. They've completely blocked the entrance. It was a low blow. Reopening those tunnels would take months of back-breaking labor and massive amounts of money. And there was no guarantee we'd even find the main vein again if the structure collapsed. Should we report this to Mayor Kong? Lin Jian asked. My father shook his head grimly. The Liu family didn't technically break the rules. As long as they hand over the required stones to the mayor, he won't care how they left the site. I'll go see it for myself. I stepped out of my room, my voice calm. Father, I'm coming with you. Lin Jian looked at me with concern. He didn't know I had awakened my meridians yet, and I was keeping my cultivation hidden. Young master, it might be dangerous. The Liu family might be lurking. Don't worry, Uncle Jian, I said. I just want to see the situation. My father nodded. He knew I wasn't the helpless boy everyone thought I was. Let's go. Meanwhile, At the Liu family manor, Liu Chong was laughing. His subordinate, Liu Kai, had just finished reporting the sabotage. Well done, Liu Chong sneered, his eyes full of malice. I want to see how Lin Yuan handles this. Those tunnels took decades to dig. Even if he clears them, he'll be broke by the time he sees a single stone. Master, you should have seen Lin Jian's face, Liu Kai chuckled. He looked like he'd swallowed a fly. That's just the beginning, Liu Chong said, his voice dropping to a cold whisper. Once we and the Luo family release our own meridian awakening fluid, the Lin family's business will collapse. I'll show them that winning a mine doesn't mean they've won the war. He turned to his elder. Go into town. Spread the word that the Lin family has run out of stock. Tell everyone who pre-ordered that they've been cheated. Then, announce that the Liu family will start selling our own fluid this afternoon for only 25 stones a bottle. I want to bankrupt them. Unaware of the scheme unfolding in town, we arrived at Qingyu Mountain. The scene was a disaster. The path to the mine was buried under mounds of dirt and jagged rocks. A dozen of our clansmen stood around, looking defeated. My father's brow furrowed. It was worse than he had described. The surface stones were gone, and the deep tunnels, the lifeblood of the mine, were completely gone, buried under tons of rubble. We were still expected to pay 200 spirit stones a month to the mayor as a tax for this mine. If we couldn't get it running, that tax would bleed us dry. They buried everything, my father whispered, his voice tight with anger. I looked at the mess, but I didn't feel despair. I felt something else. Beneath the rubble, deep in the earth, my heightened senses picked up a faint, pulsing rhythm. The Liu family thought they had ruined us, but they were arrogant. They had spent decades digging in the wrong direction. By burying the old tunnels, they had unknowingly cleared the way for me to find what was really hidden in this mountain. The tunnels we can actually reach were just dug recently, a white-haired elder said, his voice low and heavy. There won't be any spirit stones in there. This was Lin Qing. He was at the 5th level of the God-sensing realm, the strongest in the family after my grandfather, Lin Mingyi. He had spent years managing mines and knew the earth better than anyone. My father, Lin Yuan, had brought him along specifically for his expertise, but even Lin Qing looked defeated now. Let's go down and see for ourselves, my father said, gritting his teeth. He didn't have a choice. The Lin family's business was dying. If we couldn't pull spirit stones out of this mountain soon, the taxes alone would bury us. We had to find a solution. Follow me, patriarch, Lin Qing nodded. He led the way into the dark maw of the new tunnel. A few clansmen followed behind, holding candles that cast flickering orange light against the damp stone walls. After walking for a while, we reached a dead end. The passage was choked with fresh dirt and jagged debris from a recent collapse. This is where the Liu family used to mine, Lin Qing said, pointing at the blockage. They destroyed it on their way out. Trying to dig through this is suicide. The whole thing could cave in on us at any second. To prove his point, he grabbed a shovel and jabbed at the loose soil. A massive clump of soft dirt immediately slid down, crumbling into nothing. There was no structural integrity left. I knelt down and grabbed a handful of the fresh earth. I squeezed it, closing my eyes. I could feel it, a faint, incredibly pure trace of spiritual energy humming between my fingers. I looked at the new tunnel the Liu family had started. Granduncle Qing, I said, looking up. You're saying this fresh dirt came from that side passage over there? That's right, young master, he replied. Let's go inside that one. I stood up and headed toward the newer excavation. Young master, I've checked that area dozens of times, Lin Qing said, following me. It's just dirt. No ore, no veins. Nothing. He sounded certain. He knew what a spirit vein looked like, and this wasn't it. I didn't stop. I kept walking deeper into the new tunnel while Lin Qing frowned, though he and the others stayed close behind me. Stop, I said suddenly. I looked up at the ceiling of the tunnel. My soul power was far beyond Lin Qing's. I could sense the spiritual rhythm of the mountain in a way he couldn't. The energy wasn't coming from deeper in the earth. It was coming from above. Get some men, I said, pointing to a spot on the upper wall. Dig upward at an angle. Lin Qing hesitated. Young master, spirit veins always run deep. Digging up just leads to the surface of the rocky mountain. There won't be anything there. Just try it, I said calmly. My father stepped forward. He knew I didn't make random guesses. Do it. Now. Lin Qing didn't argue further. He grabbed a shovel and started hacking away at the ceiling in the direction I pointed. The other men stood by, hauling away the dirt as he worked. Minutes turned into an hour. They dug 30 meters, then 40. Still, there was nothing but common red clay and dirt. Young master, Lin Qing said, wiping sweat from his brow. My experience tells me there is nothing here. Granduncle, grab a handful of that dirt, I said, a smile tugging at my lips. Feel it carefully. I was certain now. The air in the tunnel was growing thick with a peculiar energy. If they kept going, they wouldn't just find spirit stones. They would find something much better. Lin Qing looked skeptical, but he reached out and grabbed a clump of the freshly dug earth. His eyes widened slightly. He felt it, a tiny, sharp prickle of spiritual energy. It was faint, but it was there. Still, he shook his head. It's just a trace, he muttered. That's normal in a mine like this. It doesn't mean there's a vein. He didn't stop, though. He kept digging. Clang. Suddenly, the shovel hit something hard. Sparks flew in the dim light. The impact was so violent it nearly jerked the shovel out of Lin Qing's hands. A pale, white surface appeared through the dirt. See, Lin Qing sighed, looking disappointed. We hit the bedrock of the mountain. It's just a dead end. I walked forward and inspected the white stone. There wasn't a single scratch on it. Granduncle, I said softly, you're at the 5th level of the God-sensing realm. If that was a normal rock, your shovel would have shattered it into 1,000 pieces. Why isn't there even a mark on this? The men went silent. They looked at the stone again. I was right. A master of Lin Qing's level should have cut through ordinary stone like butter. Young master, you mean there's something behind this? Lin Qing asked, his voice trembling. I'm sure of it, I nodded. In my 6th life, I had been a slave in the mines of the Tai Holy Land. I had spent decades learning the secrets of the earth. This mountain was hiding a treasure the Liu family was too blind to see. Everyone, get over here, Lin Qing shouted, his excitement finally bubbling over. Carefully now, dig around this stone. The men swarmed the area. They worked with renewed hunger, clearing the earth away inch by inch. Then, someone on the left side let out a sharp gasp. Over here, look at this. We rushed over. A wave of incredibly pure, dense spiritual energy hit us like a physical wall. Under the glow of the torches, the dirt gave way to clusters of translucent, diamond-like crystals. They shimmered with a blinding, heavenly light. I stood there stunned. Even I hadn't expected this. If the Liu family found out what they had given away, they would probably cough up blood and die of regret. This wasn't a spirit stone mine. These were spirit crystals. My God, Lin Qing whispered, his voice shaking. Is this the legendary spirit crystal? He looked like he had seen a ghost. Even a low-grade spirit crystal held more pure energy than the highest-grade spirit stone. It was a fortune beyond imagining. My father's face went pale. He realized the gravity of the situation immediately. This was a miracle, but it was also a death sentence. If word got out that the Lin family possessed a spirit crystal mine, every power in the region would descend on us to tear it from our hands. Listen to me, my father barked, his eyes scanning the men with terrifying intensity. Everyone here is a member of the Lin family. You know the danger. If a single word of this leaks out, our family will be slaughtered. Your wives, your children, no one will be spared. We understand, Patriarch, Lin Qing shouted, being the first to swear loyalty. He knew that with these crystals, the Lin family wouldn't just survive. We would become unstoppable. From this day forward, I couldn't afford to be careless. The discovery of a spirit crystal mine was a game-changer, but it was also a massive target on our backs. A single vein of these crystals was enough to shake the entire Tianling prefecture. My father, Lin Yuan, understood this better than anyone. He turned to the men, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous command. From this moment on, no one leaves the Qingyu Mountain mine without my direct orders. If a single word of this leaks, the Lin family dies. Is that clear? Understood, Patriarch. Lin Qing and the others shouted in unison. They weren't stupid. They knew the stakes. My father pulled Lin Qing aside as we began to walk out of the dark tunnels. Fourth uncle, you're older and more experienced. I'm putting you in full charge of the mining operations. I need to know this place is secure. Lin Qing thumped his chest, his face grim with determination. Rest easy, patriarch. Unless I'm dead, nothing will go wrong here. I trust you, my father said. He reached into his robes and pulled out 2 scrolls. These are for you. The Starry Firmament Art, a top-tier Earth-grade cultivation technique, and the Split-Arm Punch, an Earth-grade battle technique. Lin Qing froze. He took the scrolls with trembling hands, his eyes nearly popping out of his head as he scanned the contents. He finally realized why my grandfather and father had made such massive breakthroughs recently. It wasn't luck. It was this. Fourth uncle, focus on your cultivation, my father interrupted his shock. I want to see you break through to the Qi Sea realm soon. The Lin family needs to grow stronger. Lin Qing tucked the scrolls into his chest as if they were made of gold. I'll give everything I have to this family. I won't let you down. With the mine secured, my father led me and the second elder, Lin Jian, back toward the town. We needed to prepare. If we had the resources of a spirit crystal mine and earth-grade techniques, the Lin family wouldn't just be a local power. We were going to become legends. Meanwhile, back at the Lin family estate, a strange scene was unfolding. An old man in a gray robe with a long sword hanging at his hip was standing at our front gate. He had a faint smile on his face, but the guards looked like they were losing their patience. This was Hu Yishui, the great elder of the Guiyuan sword sect. Ever since he saw my sister, Lin Yufei, perform her sword techniques at the family competition, he had become obsessed with making her his disciple. You again, old man, the guard, Lin Huan groaned. Last time you tried to see the patriarch, and the third elder chased you off. Now you want to see the young lady. Please, young man, I'm not a bad guy, Hu Yishui said, his voice dripping with forced politeness. It was pathetic, really. A man of his status, a powerhouse who even the prefecture governor would bow to, was now begging a gate guard just to get a good word in with a teenage girl. Don't talk nonsense, the guard scoffed, puffing out his chest. Our young lady is a sword genius. She's going to the Hongfeng City branch to train soon. She's destined for greatness. Hu Yishui nearly choked. The Hongfeng branch? Comparing him to a small city branch family was like comparing a dragon to a lizard. He wanted to scream his identity at the top of his lungs, but he held back. He had to stay calm. He had to make a good impression. Just then, the gates creaked open. Yufei stepped out, wearing a pale blue dress, looking around with a confused pout. Lin Huan, have you seen my brother? I can't find Chen anywhere. The guard immediately straightened up, his face switching from a scowl to a sycophantic grin. Miss, the young master left early this morning with the patriarch and the second elder. Oh, where did they go? Yufei asked, frowning. Hey, little girl. Hu Yishui blurted out, appearing in front of her in the blink of an eye. His eyes were shining with excitement. Forget about your brother for a second. Why don't you become my disciple? Yufei jumped back, startled by the old man's sudden appearance. Who are you? I am the great elder of the Guiyuan sword sect, he said, clearing his throat and trying to look as dignified and legendary as possible. The guard, Lin Huan, burst out laughing. He stepped between them, shielding Yufei. Give it a rest, old man. If you're the great elder, then I'm the sect master. You're just another traveling scammer trying to trick our young lady. Get lost before I make you. Hu Yishui felt like he was going to vomit blood. A scammer? Him? He was one of the strongest men in the Great Yin Empire, and he was being treated like a street performer. Yufei tilted her head, looking him up and down. You know, my brother Chen always says you can tell a liar by their eyebrows. And yours look exactly like a scammer's. Sorry, old man, I'm not that easy to trick. I'm going back to practice my sword. She turned on her heel and skipped back into the courtyard, leaving Hu Yishui standing there in stunned silence. I must stay calm, he whispered to himself, his face twitching. I must be patient. A genius like her is worth the humiliation. Don't blow it, Yishui. Don't blow it. But while he was struggling with his dignity, trouble was brewing elsewhere. In the center of Tianyuan town, a mob was gathering in front of the Lin family's medicine shop. It was barely dawn, but 30 people were already shouting and banging on the doors. Give us our money back. We want our spirit stones. We heard Master Zhu cut ties with the Lins. You don't have any meridian opening fluid left. Refund our deposits now, or we'll tear this shop down. The Lin family had always taken deposits up front to buy materials for Master Zhu to refine. Now, the news of the fallout had leaked. Across the street, Lu Chang watched the chaos with a cold, satisfied smirk. This was just the beginning. He was going to bleed us dry before he finished us off. A satisfied smile spread across Lu Chang's face. Since his family's defeat at the three-clan competition, he hadn't had much to cheer about. Beside him, his son Lu Jian ground his teeth in frustration. My sister Yufei had badly injured him during that tournament, and he still hadn't fully recovered. Seeing my family in trouble was the only thing making him feel better. Lu Chang turned to Master Zhu, who was standing nearby, and flashed a flattering grin. He knew that securing a second-grade alchemist was a massive win for the Lu family. Master Zhu just smiled back, looking smug. He didn't care about clan loyalty. He was here because the Lius offered him 30 low-grade spirit stones per bottle. Money talks, and since Lu Chang had already ordered 500 bottles with a 10,000 stone deposit, the deal was sealed. Alchemy is an expensive profession, and Master Zhu needed the resources. Great Elder, Lu Chang whispered to Lu Wan, "Go spread the word. Our meridian opening fluid is now only 25 stones a bottle." Lu Wan didn't waste a second. As the news hit the streets, the mob outside our family shop grew even more aggressive. Back at our estate, Linda came rushing in, his face pale. "Patriarch, the Lu family is playing dirty. They're selling fluid for 25 stones. The 30 people who pre-ordered from us are outside right now, screaming for refunds. What do we do?" My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, stood up. He looked surprisingly calm. "If they want their money back, give it to them." Linda hesitated. He knew that if we processed these refunds, our reputation would be trashed and our business would never recover. "Don't worry, uncle," I said, stepping forward with a faint smile. "Let's go to the shop and see for ourselves." I wasn't worried at all. The fluid Lin Xinger was brewing back at the house was far superior to that garbage Master Zhu produced. Plus, thanks to my connections, we were getting raw materials from the Sky Dragon Chamber of Commerce at a 30% discount. Our cost per bottle was less than 5 stones. Even if we sold it for 10, we'd still be doubling our money. This was exactly why every major sect and clan fought so hard to keep alchemists on their payroll. Seeing how composed grandfather and I were, Linda started to calm down. The three of us walked toward the town center. As soon as we reached the shop, the crowd turned on us like a pack of wolves. "Lin Mingyi, you're one of the 3 big families, and you're running a scam. Give us our money back. If you don't refund us now, we're taking this to the town magistrate. Shameless. Selling stuff you don't even have." Grandfather stepped to the front of the shop. His voice boomed, cutting through the noise. "Everyone, stay calm. If you no longer wish to buy from the Lin family, we will return every single stone you paid." He turned to Linda, "Refund them according to the list. But hear me clearly. Anyone who takes a refund today is banned from our shop forever. You will never step foot in a Lin family business again." The crowd laughed. "Who cares? Why would we come back to a shop with no stock? I'm taking my money to the Lius. Their stuff is cheaper anyway." Across the street, Lu Chang stepped out of his shop, laughing loudly. "Brother Lin, don't be so angry. We're all neighbors. If you're really struggling, maybe I can sell you some of my stock at a wholesale price." Ha ha. Grandfather ignored him. He stayed focused, watching as Linda handed back the spirit stones. Within minutes, the 30 protesters grabbed their money and sprinted toward the Lu family shop, eager to grab the cheaper fluid. Once they were gone, Grandfather turned to Linda. "Now, announce our new product. Lin Family Meridian Opening Fluid. Mid-grade quality. Price, 20 spirit stones a bottle." Linda froze. "Patriarch, where would we get mid-grade fluid? And at 20 stones? We'll lose everything." Grandfather didn't say a word. He just opened a heavy bundle he'd been carrying. Inside were dozens of small glass bottles, glowing with spiritual energy. There had to be at least 70 or 80 of them. Linda's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He finally realized why we had been so relaxed. We weren't just surviving. We were about to take over the market. "What are you standing there for?" Grandfather barked, though his eyes were bright with pride. "Make the announcement. And remember, none of those 28 people who just walked away are allowed to buy a single drop. If anyone tries to buy it for them, They're banned too. Grandfather stood tall, his chest out. In 20 years of leading this clan, I don't think he'd ever felt this vindicated. We finally had our own alchemist, and I knew Xing'er's talent would eventually leave Master Zhu in the dust. Linda didn't need to be told twice. He filled his lungs and screamed at the top of his lungs. Everyone! The Lin family is now selling mid-grade meridian opening fluid. Only 20 stones a bottle. Come and get it. The street went silent for a heartbeat, then erupted. Mid-grade fluid for 20 stones? That was unheard of. Even if people weren't sure if it was true, they weren't going to risk missing out. The crowd that had just abandoned us turned around and sprinted back toward our doors. Lu Feng, a member of the Lu family who had been inciting the mob, pushed his way to the front, his face red with rage. Linda, stop lying. Master Zhu left you. You don't have an alchemist. Where would you get mid-grade fluid? Linda didn't even argue. He grabbed a bottle, popped the cork, and held it up. The thick, potent aroma of spiritual energy flooded the air. It was unmistakable. The quality was leagues above the watered-down trash Master Zhu made. It really is mid-grade, someone shouted. 20 stones? I want 10 bottles. Give them to me now. The warriors in the street went wild. Why would anyone buy low-grade junk from the Lius for 25 stones when they could get mid-grade gold from us for 20? Line up, Linda shouted, his face beaming. There's plenty for everyone, and we'll have regular stock from now on. For today, it's 1 bottle per person. Across the street, the Lu family shop was suddenly empty. Lu Chang stood in his doorway, his jaw dropping as he watched the entire town run away from him. He looked at his guards, then at the empty street, completely bewildered. What happened? Lu Chang stammered. Lu Feng finally managed to scramble back to him, panting for breath, his face gray. Master, it's a disaster. The crowd that had just abandoned us was now fighting to get back to our door. Lu Feng, the man who had spent all morning inciting the mob against us, scrambled to the front. His face was flushed with a mix of rage and disbelief. Linda, stop lying, he screamed, his voice cracking. Master Zhu left you. You don't have an alchemist. Where would you get mid-grade fluid? Linda didn't even bother to argue. He grabbed a bottle, popped the cork, and held it high. The thick, potent aroma of spiritual energy flooded the street instantly. It was unmistakable. The quality was leagues above the watered-down trash Master Zhu produced. It really is mid-grade, someone shouted from the back. 20 stones? I want 10 bottles. Give them to me now. The warriors went wild. Why would anyone buy low-grade junk from the Lu family for 25 stones when they could get mid-grade gold from us for 20? Line up, Linda shouted, his face beaming with pride. There's plenty for everyone, and we'll have regular stock from now on. For today, it's 1 bottle per person. Across the street, the Lu family shop was suddenly a ghost town. Lu Chang stood in his doorway, his jaw dropping as he watched the entire town sprint away from him. He looked at his guards, then at the empty street, completely bewildered. What happened? Lu Chang stammered. Lu Feng finally managed to scramble back to his master, panting for breath. His face had turned a sickly shade of gray. Master, it's a disaster. The Lin family, they have dozens of bottles, all mid-grade, and they're selling them for only 20 stones. Impossible, Lu Chang roared. Before he could even process the news, Master Zhu, who had been sitting comfortably inside, bolted upright. His eyes looked like they were about to pop out of his skull. Mid-grade? For 20 stones? That can't be. If you don't believe me, go look for yourself. Lu Feng snapped back. He was frustrated. He had done everything Lu Chang asked, and now it was all blowing up in his face. Suddenly, a new commotion erupted. The 28 warriors who had just returned their products to us, the ones Lu Feng had tricked, were now charging toward the Lu shop. Their eyes were bloodshot with fury. They had watched their peers walk away with high-quality medicine for a bargain, while they were left with nothing. Lu Feng, you dog! Get out here! You lied to us. You cost us our chance. Give us our money back. You ruined everything. They were screaming at the top of their lungs. They weren't just mad about the money, they were terrified. Linda had already announced that anyone who turned their back on the Lin family today would be blacklisted forever. Not even a mountain of gold would buy them a single drop of our medicine now. Lu Chang stepped to the edge of his shop, his teeth grinding so hard I thought they might shatter. He had spent a fortune to poach Master Zhu. He had sacrificed everything to corner the market. And now, the Lin family had produced something better and cheaper. I stood near our entrance, watching the chaos with a calm expression. Lu Jian, Lu Cheng's son, limped toward me. His injuries from our last encounter hadn't healed, and his aura was a mess. Seeing me standing there, looking perfectly composed while he suffered, sent him into a fit of rage. Lin Chun, you're a fraud, Lu Jian spat, pointing a trembling finger at me. Your family can't make mid-grade fluid. If you had a second-rank alchemist, why would you be a useless waste who can't even open his meridians? I felt a flicker of killing intent from my father, Lin Yuan, who was standing nearby. But I just glanced at Lu Jian and turned away. I didn't need to say a word. To me, he was just a stray dog barking at a carriage. Look at him. He's running away because he's a coward, Lu Jian yelled, trying to provoke me. But the customers in line weren't having it. Shut up, Lu. We've seen the quality ourselves. Your family sells trash for 25 stones. Why don't you go back and tell your father to drop his prices to 15? Exactly. Maybe then we'd consider buying your garbage. Lu Jian looked like he was about to vomit blood. He knew the truth. The Lu family was buying those low-grade bottles from Master Zhu for 30 stones each. Selling them for 15 would bankrupt the family in a month. Last 10 bottles. Lin Da's voice boomed over the crowd. Get them while they last. The street erupted in a fresh scramble. Lu Jian turned and ran back to his father's shop, his face pale. Meanwhile, Master Zhu was trying to sneak out the back door. He had already pocketed 10,000 spirit stones from Lu Chang, and he knew when his ship was sinking. Master Zhu, where do you think you're going? Lu Chang growled, blocking his path. His eyes were veined with red. A dark thought crossed his mind. Maybe Zhu and the Lin family had conspired to play him for a fool. You owe me an explanation. Zhu straightened his robes, his expression turning cold. Watch your tone, Lu. I am a second-rank alchemist. You bought my medicine willingly. If you want to start a fight with me, consider the consequences. Without another word, the old man pushed past him and walked away. Lu Chang stood there, frozen. The loss of the spirit mine, the wasted 10,000 stones, and the humiliation were too much. His chest heaved, and suddenly, a spray of bright red blood erupted from his mouth. He collapsed backward into the arms of his panicked guards. By that evening, the news had spread through every corner of Tianyuan town. Linda returned to our manor, unable to stop grinning. Master, it was incredible. Lu Chang fainted on the spot, and that old fraud Zhu ran off like a scared rabbit. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, sat in the hall, looking more composed than I had ever seen him. His aura was steady and deep. Since he started practicing the high-grade star heaven technique I provided, his cultivation had jumped to the second level of the spirit realm. Linda noticed the change immediately. Master, your aura. It's even stronger than before. Grandfather looked at Linda, a trusted member of the family, and beckoned him closer. Follow me. They stepped into a private room. I watched as grandfather produced a scroll glowing with faint golden light. Linda's eyes nearly fell out of his head as he read the runes. An earth-grade cultivation technique? Linda whispered, his voice trembling. This is how you and the head of the house broke through so quickly? I found a great opportunity during my travels. Grandfather lied smoothly, following the cover story we had agreed upon. This is the star heaven art. It is the future of our family. Linda fell to his knees, tears welling in his eyes. Heaven is truly watching over the Lin family. Linda stared at the scroll, his face pale with shock. He knew exactly how rare a top-tier cultivation technique was. It was the kind of treasure people started wars over. Brother Da, grandfather said, his voice dropping to a serious whisper. I'm entrusting this to you. Practice it in secret. Do not breathe a word of this to anyone. You understand how high the stakes are. Grandfather pressed a finger to Lin Da's forehead. A flash of golden light surged from his fingertip, flowing directly into Lin Da's mind. Brother E, don't worry, Linda said, his voice trembling with resolve. Even if I die, I won't let a single detail slip. He wasn't exaggerating. If the news got out that the Lin family possessed an earth-grade technique, we would be wiped off the map by sunrise. A common man who holds a treasure he cannot protect is simply inviting disaster. Grandfather nodded. I trust you. That's why I'm sharing this. What about Brother Jin and Brother Su? Linda asked. I gave it to them last night, grandfather replied with a faint smile. For now, only the 4 of us and the 6 boys, including Lin Shan, are allowed to practice it. The rest of the family isn't ready. We can't risk a leak. These 4 men, my grandfather and his 3 brothers, had grown up together. They were the backbone of the family. When they came of age, they chose grandfather as the head, and the others had supported him loyally ever since. It was their unity that had kept our family peaceful for all these years. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the courtyard. Out of my way. You think you can stop me? A raspy, arrogant voice barked. It was Old Man Zhu. He looked furious, dragging Lin Mao, one of our guards, by the collar. He marched straight toward grandfather's private quarters like he owned the place. What do you think you're doing? My sister, Lin Yufei, rushed out, her eyes blazing with anger. Linny, get out here right now. Zhu screamed. As a second-rank alchemist, Zhu possessed a decent amount of soul power. He didn't just shout. He infused his voice with spiritual energy, letting the sound waves ripple through the air like a physical blow. Lin Mao, who had already been slammed to the ground, couldn't handle the pressure. He coughed up a spray of blood and slumped over, unconscious. Inside my room, I felt the vibration. My eyes snapped open, a cold, murderous light flickering in the depths of my pupils. This old fraud was not only ungrateful, but had the audacity to come to our home and assault our people. And he was using soul power? In front of me? Fine. I decided to show him what real soul power felt like. I had just broken through to the first level of the blood-melting realm. It was the perfect time to test my limits and see how much a targeted soul attack would drain me. I focused. A strange, invisible light shot from my eyes, piercing through the walls toward the courtyard. I gasped. The sensation was like a vacuum sucking every drop of spiritual energy out of my body. My breathing turned ragged, and I felt a wave of exhaustion hit me. I quickly grabbed a spirit crystal grandfather had given me and began to absorb it. Even at the blood-melting realm, my soul was still too powerful for this body to handle comfortably. It was better than the last time I'd used it at the ruined temple, but I still felt the strain. I closed my eyes, ignoring the chaos outside, and focused entirely on refining the crystal. I was like a bottomless pit. A peak spirit realm cultivator like grandfather would take half an hour to drain a single crystal. I finished mine in seconds. The stone turned to gray dust in my hand as I swallowed the energy whole. Outside, Zhu froze. His eyes narrowed. For a split second, he felt a shiver run down his spine, as if something, or someone, had looked right through his soul. He tried to push his own soul power out to investigate, but the sensation vanished as quickly as it had appeared. He shook it off, though something felt slightly wrong deep inside his mind. Grandfather stepped out of the room, Linda right behind him. He kept his expression neutral and cupped his hands in a polite greeting. Even if we weren't working with Zhu anymore, an alchemist was still a dangerous enemy to make. Master Zhu, grandfather said calmly, to what do I owe the visit so late at night? Linda rushed over to help the fallen guard. His face darkened when he saw Lin Mao bleeding from his nose and ears. The poor kid was only at the 4th level of the pulse-opening realm. A soul attack from a second-rank alchemist was enough to leave him bedridden for days. Let's not play games, Linny, Zhu spat. I don't care where you found that mid-grade pulse-opening fluid. From now on, you will buy all the fluid I refine at the price of 20 low-grade spirit stones. He paused, a smug look crossing his face. As compensation, I'll let you sell some of my second-rank pills in your shop. You can keep a small cut. Zhu had spent the day sniffing around town. He hadn't found any other alchemists, so he assumed we had just bought a secret stash of mid-grade fluid at a high price to save our business. He thought he had us cornered. Linda looked like he was about to explode. Compensation? He wanted us to work for him for free while overpaying for his garbage products. He was treating the Lin family like his personal slaves. Master Zhu, I'm afraid I must decline, grandfather said, his voice cold. Our family cannot afford such a generous offer. Grandfather was a patient man, but this was too much. We had supported this man for years, and he had turned his back on us the moment things got tough. Now that we had our own supply, he wanted to crawl back and bleed us dry again. You dare refuse me? Zhu's face contorted, his wrinkles twitching with rage. Do you realize who I am? One word from me, and no one will ever sell you mid-grade fluid again. Do you really want to ruin your family? Zhu, you shameless old dog. Get the hell out of here. A new voice boomed through the courtyard. An old man in a gray robe stepped forward, his aura radiating like a physical weight. The wind picked up, swirling around him in sharp gusts. It was my great-uncle, Lin Mingyi. With the help of the spirit crystals and the star heaven art, his progress had been terrifying. He had already reached the peak of the 9th level of the spirit realm. He was one step away from forming a Qi. Lin Mingyi, Zhu gasped, his eyes widening. You reached the peak of the 9th level? Shock quickly turned into greed. Everyone knew Lin Mingyi had been stuck at the 6th level for years. To jump 3 levels in such a short time meant he had found a massive treasure. I need to leave, Zhu thought, his mind racing. I'll gather some experts, come back, and take whatever they're hiding. Brother Lin, Zhu said, his voice suddenly shifting to a fake, oily tone. My apologies. I'll take my leave now. Please, don't mind me. He turned to walk away, his heart pounding with the plan to destroy us. But the moment he lifted his foot, his eyes bulged out of his head. Tiny red veins spiderwebbed across Zhu's eyeballs. He tried to speak, but his voice was a broken rasp. He couldn't understand what was happening. His soul power, the very foundation of his life as a second-tier alchemist, was dissolving. It felt like his mind was being erased from the inside out. No, impossible. He managed to choke out. Blood began to spray from his mouth, bubbling over his lips. My great-uncle, Lin Mingyi, and the others watched in silence, only catching those 2 desperate words. Zhu's eyes eventually ruptured, leaking crimson down his face. He collapsed onto the dirt, his body twitching in violent, final spasms. In his final moments of consciousness, the truth hit him. The moment he had stepped into our courtyard and flexed his soul power to intimidate us, he had been marked. Someone had counterattacked his spirit instantly. He had felt a strange ripple back then, but ignored it. Now he died wondering who in the weak Lin family possessed such terrifying soul strength. What happened? One of the cousins whispered, his voice trembling. The crowd looked at Zhu's corpse with pure horror. A minute ago, he was a high and mighty alchemist threatening to ruin us. Now he was just a bag of meat-leaking blood. My father, Lin Yuan, stared at the body, and a memory flashed in his mind. He remembered Lin Jun, the assassin who had chased us at the ruined temple. Lin Jun had died in the exact same way. My father didn't hesitate. He looked at my uncle, Linda, his expression grim. Wait until the middle of the night. Personally take this body and dump it deep in the Qingyu Mountains. Make sure no one sees you. Linda nodded, his face pale, and dragged the corpse away. My father turned his gaze toward my room. He took a long, shaky breath, his eyes filled with a mix of confusion and realization. Great-uncle Lin Mingyi noticed the look and followed his gaze. I hadn't stepped foot out of my room once, yet my father seemed certain I was the cause of this. Later that night, the 2 of them sat in the study. My father told him everything about how Lin Jun had died. Do you think Chun'er is a soul master? Lin Mingyi asked, his brow furrowed. A soul master? My father blinked. It was a term he had never heard before. If he can kill from a distance without touching them, it fits the legends, Lin Mingyi explained. We warriors refine spiritual energy to strengthen our bodies and build a Qi. But soul masters? They refine the soul itself. Their attacks are invisible and unpredictable. I've lived 70 years and never actually met one. Even in the 49 cities of the Heaven Spirit County, they are as rare as phoenix feathers. He was only guessing based on old records he'd read, but the records all said the same thing. Anyone born as a soul master was destined for greatness. But where would he learn such things? My father asked, his voice thick with worry. He had found me as a baby in the mountains and raised me as his own. To him, I wasn't some legendary master. I was his son. He was terrified that this power might put a target on my back. Yuan, the boy has his own path, Lin Mingyi said, placing a hand on my father's shoulder. We can't protect him forever. He was born extraordinary. All we can do is stand behind him and give him our support. Whether he's a soul master or not, he's a member of the Lin family. That's all that matters. While my family was coming to terms with my secrets, the rest of the town was in chaos. Over at the Liu family estate, The atmosphere was explosive. Lu Chang, you owe me an explanation. Luo Yin roared, his face turning purple with rage. He had brought 4 elders from the Luo family with him. He had invested 5,000 low-grade spirit stones into Lu Chang's plan to crush our shops. Now, not only had the plan failed, but he was facing a massive financial loss he couldn't explain to his clan. Don't yell at me. Lu Chang snapped, looking like he had aged 10 years. We were both played by Zhu Qing. That old dog was a second-tier alchemist. I couldn't exactly interrogate him. Lu Chang was convinced Zhu Qing had been playing both sides, supplying us with the mid-grade fluid just to stir up trouble. I don't care about your excuses. Luo Yin gritted his teeth. My family isn't as rich as yours. Losing 5,000 stones means my own elders want to kick me out of the leadership. Give me back my money. I didn't force you to partner with me. Lu Chang sneered. You want your money? Go find Zhu Qing. I gave the stones to him. It's not my problem anymore. Luo Yin was speechless. Suddenly, a white-haired man with a jagged scar on his cheek stepped forward. This was Luo Hong, the supreme elder of the Luo family and a 6th-level God communication realm expert. He released a wave of pressure that made the furniture in the hall creak. Lu Chang, do you think the Luo family is easy to bully? Luo Hong growled. Pay us the 5,000 stones, or don't blame me for being heartless. You won't be doing anything in our house, Luo Hong. 2 more men stepped into the hall, Lu Wen and Lu Zhua, both powerful experts in their own right. But Luo Hong didn't even flinch. He was at the peak of the 6th level. These 3 combined couldn't stop him. The tension was at a breaking point. Lu Chang's eyes were full of hatred, his hand hovering over his weapon. Just as the first blow was about to be struck, a booming voice echoed through the hall. A sudden gust of wind swept through the room, and an old man in a gray robe appeared as if out of thin air. The air around him rippled like a disturbed pond. Old ancestor, Lu Chang gasped, his anger instantly replaced by shock and joy. You broke through? The sight of the old man didn't bring fear to the hall. Instead, Lu Chang's face exploded with pure ecstasy. I watched him drop his guard instantly. He looked like a man who had just found a mountain of gold. You're useless, the old man said. He stared at Lu Chang with cold, piercing eyes. If I hadn't come out now, I'm afraid the Lu family would have ceased to exist. The old ancestor is right to lecture me, Lu Chang replied. He lowered his head quickly. I have been incompetent. Even though his head was bowed, I could see the glint in his eyes. He wasn't just relieved. He was thrilled. He knew that with this old man's return, the balance of power in Tianyuan town was about to be shattered. The Lu family's time to rule everything had finally arrived. Luo Yin and his 4 companions looked like they had swallowed charcoal. Their faces were pale and grim. Luo Hong, who had been acting like a tiger just moments ago, suddenly looked like a cornered rat. The arrogance vanished from his face, replaced by pure terror. He started inching toward the door, hoping to slip away unnoticed. He never expected this. Lu Han was supposed to be a decaying old man with 1 foot in the grave. Yet here he was, standing tall, having successfully condensed his Qi-Si. He had reached the Qi-Si realm. In a place like Tianyuan town, the difference between the God communication realm and the Qi-Si realm was the difference between a puddle and an ocean. Luo Hong knew the world was changing right before his eyes. Oh, leaving so soon. Lu Han's voice was playful, but it carried a sharp edge. You aren't even going to say hello? Luo Hong froze. He had just started to circulate his spiritual power to bolt, but the voice stopped him cold. He gritted his teeth and forced a smile onto his face. He turned around and bowed deeply. Congratulations to the senior for stepping into the Qi-Si realm. Luo Hong shouted, his voice trembling slightly. I thought I heard you say you wanted 5,000 spirit stones from my family, Lu Han said calmly. A faint smile played on his lips. Do you still want them? He looked like a man who knew he was the master of the world. For decades, 3 families had shared power in this town. Today, that era was ending. Senior must be joking, Luo Hong said without a second of hesitation. The Luo family will follow your lead from now on. We are at your command. He shot a frantic look at Luo Yin and the others. They weren't fools. They saw the writing on the wall. If they didn't submit now, they would be wiped out before sunset. The Luo family follows the senior, they shouted in unison. Lu Jian ran forward, his face glowing with pride. He bowed low before the old man. Old ancestor. Not bad, Lu Hun said, nodding. 4th level of the blood-melting realm. I heard from your father that a master from the Guiyuan sword sect took an interest in you. You must work hard. You are the future of our family. Old ancestor, my master is a deacon there, Lu Jian bragged. He wanted to impress the old man, so he let his lies run wild. He promised to visit our town soon. In reality, Lu Jian was just a lowly outer disciple who nobody cared about. His master was only interested in the 100 spirit stones Lu Jian bribed him with every month. But he wasn't about to tell the truth now. Very good, Lu Hun said, his eyes brightening. I will personally host him when he arrives. But then, Lu Hun's expression shifted. He reached out and grabbed Lu Jian's arm. His brow furrowed. Wait, your aura is unstable. Something is wrong. He felt a sharp, jagged energy swirling inside Lu Jian's body. Even as a Qi expert, Lu Hun felt a prickle of unease from that energy. Old ancestor, Lu Jian muttered, his voice full of hate. During the 3-family competition a few days ago, I was careless. Lin Yufei wounded me with her sword. It's my fault the family lost the top spot. He made it sound like she had cheated or gotten lucky, rather than simply being better. Lu Hun didn't say a word. He surged his spiritual power into Lu Jian's body to crush the invading energy. A violent wind whipped through the hall as the two forces collided. Lu Hun pulled back, his face filled with shock. Sword intent. Lu Jian was drenched in sweat, gasping for air. He tried to hide how much pain he was in, but his lungs were burning. The room went silent. Everyone stared at them. Sword intent was something only legendary grandmasters could touch. How could a young girl from the Lin family possess such a thing? The Lin girl did this. Lu Hun asked urgently. He had heard of Lin Yufei's talent before, but this changed everything. If she had truly grasped sword intent, every major sect in the Great Yin Empire would be fighting to recruit her. Yes, old ancestor, Lu Jian hissed through his teeth. You didn't lose because you were careless, Lu Hun said, his voice turning cold and murderous. That isn't full sword intent yet. It's a seed, a prototype. But even so, that girl cannot be allowed to live. The Luo family members shivered. They finally understood why Lin Yufei had been able to take Luo Cheng's arm and crush Lu Jian so easily. She was a once-in-a-thousand-years genius. And now, they were watching as Lu Hun prepared to snuff that genius out before she could bloom. Lu Hun pulled a letter from his robe and handed it to Luo Hong. Take this to Hongfeng City. Find the Black Crow monk and give this to him. Do not fail. Luo Hong took the letter with trembling hands. He didn't dare refuse. Now, go and get your family ready, Lu Hun commanded, looking at the Luo elders. If you are obedient, you will be our subordinates once the Lin family is gone. If not, don't blame me for being heartless. We understand. We will follow the Lu family. Luo Yin bowed again, desperate to get out of there alive. A Qi expert was a powerhouse even in a big city like Hongfeng. They scrambled out of the hall as fast as their legs could carry them. Old ancestor, why let them go? Lu Chang asked, his eyes flashing with a desire to kill. Let them be the vanguard, Lu Hun sneered. They can bleed for us when we attack the Lin family. Why waste our own men when we can let our dogs die for us? We will sit back and collect the spoils. Lu Chang grinned. The old ancestor is wise. Meanwhile, in a grand mansion in Hongfeng City, another man was savoring his own victory. Lin Hua sat in his study, surrounded by the praise of his followers. After stealing the jade spirit marrow from my father, he had gone into seclusion. Now, he had finally emerged. He had successfully condensed his Qi. He was no longer just an elder, he was a powerhouse. And he was very, very satisfied with the price he had paid to get there. Lin Hua sat in his study, savoring the power coursing through his veins. He hadn't expected the jade spirit marrow to be this potent. It had actually allowed him to condense his Qi and break through to the Qi realm. I was just lucky to break through, thanks to everyone's support, Lin Hua said, waving a hand dismissively. He tried to sound humble, but his face told a different story. He looked arrogant, his eyes gleaming with newfound status. Congratulations to the great elder for reaching the Qi realm. The crowd cheered, their voices filling the hall. A man in a pale white robe stepped forward. His steady voice instantly silenced the room. It was Lin Hai, the current head of the Lin family in Hongfeng City. Since Lin Hua had broken through, it was only right for the family head to offer his congratulations. Lin Mei followed close behind him. She was tall, wearing a pale yellow dress with a sword gripped firmly in her hand. "Greetings, family head." Everyone bowed in unison. "Thank you for your concern, family head," Lin Hua said, standing up from the main seat. He knew deep down that Lin Hai must have known about the stolen jade spirit marrow. The fact that Lin Hai had looked the other way was a silent endorsement. Now that he had reached the Qi Si realm, he felt he hadn't wasted Lin Hai's kindness. "Great Elder, since you've reached the Qi Si realm, I'll gift you a Qi Si pill to help stabilize your cultivation," Lin Hai said, handing over a small jade bottle. "Thank you for the generous gift," Lin Hua replied. He didn't even pretend to refuse. He took the pill, a flash of triumph hidden deep in his eyes. Lin Qing, Lin Hua's son, stepped forward with a wide grin. "Mayor," he called out, looking at Lin Mei with blatant greed. She was Lin Hai's only daughter and highly talented in swordplay. If he could win her over, the position of family head would eventually be his. Lin Mei frowned, her eyes filled with disgust. "Lin Qing, I've told you many times. Call me by my full name. Mayor, we're all the younger generation of the Lin family. Don't be so distant," Lin Qing said, ignoring her rejection. He kept smiling, though his tone carried a hint of a lecture. "With the Hongfeng City competition coming up, we need to be united to ensure our family takes first place." Lin Mei let out a cold snort. She didn't hide her anger as she turned and stormed out of the hall. "Family head, my boy's feelings for the young lady are, well, they're hard to put into words," Lin Hua said, shooting a glare at his son before offering a forced smile to Lin Hai. Lin Hai didn't respond. His expression remained calm as he stood up. "The affairs of the youngsters should be handled by themselves," he said simply, then walked toward the exit. "Farewell, family head," Lin Hua's loud voice echoed behind him. Once outside, Lin Hai's eyes narrowed slightly, suppressing a flash of coldness. He quickly caught up with his daughter. "Dad?" Lin Hua's smug, "Villain gets his way look is disgusting," Lin Mei muttered, her face red with frustration. If he hadn't stolen that jade spirit marrow, there's no way he would have broken through so fast. "Lin Qing has already reached the 6th level of the blood-melting realm," Lin Hai said calmly. "With 2 months left, it won't be hard for him to hit the 7th level. Don't slack off. I heard from the city lord that the Great Yin Empire and the 4 major sects are sending representatives to the competition. If you win, Lin Qing won't dare to bother you anymore. In the end, strength speaks the loudest." Lin Mei gasped. "He's already at the 6th level? So fast. That's why you need to hurry," Lin Hai replied. He knew his daughter was talented and proud. She would never settle for someone like Lin Qing. He figured a little pressure would only help her grow. Lin Mei squeezed her fists tight and picked up her pace, heading straight for the cultivation room. Back in his private courtyard, Lin Hua's face twisted with murderous intent. "What did you find? Where is Lin Jun?" He had sent Lin Jun to kill my father and me, but the man had vanished. Before going into seclusion to refine the marrow, he had sent an investigator named Lin Zhan to find him. Reporting to the Great Elder, I found no trace of Lin Jun. "It's like he vanished into thin air," Lin Zhan reported, frowning. "But I found something strange." He went on to describe the family competition in Tianyuan town and mentioned that my grandfather, Lin Mingyi, had somehow reached the 7th level of the spirit connection realm. "That old man was stuck at the peak of the 6th level for years," Lin Hua muttered, his eyes narrowing. "How did he break through after I took the marrow? Something is wrong." "It's not just him," Lin Zhan added. "Lin Yuan's cultivation has recovered, and the younger generation's strength has shot up across the board. I heard that a few days after Lin Yuan and Lin Chen returned, a heavenly phenomenon appeared on Mount Qingyu. Golden light covered the mountain, and all the animals fled. Many people went to investigate, but they found nothing." Lin Hua's eyes filled with greed. "You're saying the Tianyuan Lin family likely found a treasure on that mountain?" Lin Zhan nodded. "It's very possible." Lin Hua almost laughed out loud. "Years ago, my grandfather had saved his life. Then, when he was stuck at a bottleneck, my father offered up the jade spirit marrow. Now, Just as he reached the Qi realm, he heard about a new treasure. It felt like the Tianyuan Lin family existed just to serve him. Lin Zhan, you did well not to alert them. I won't forget this, Lin Hua said, nodding in approval. It is my duty to serve the great elder, Lin Zhan bowed. Don't worry. When I become the head of the Lin family, your future is set, Lin Hua promised, his ambition swelling. At tomorrow's council, I'll propose an investigation into Lin Jun's disappearance. You'll lead a team to Tianyuan town. It'll be a perfect cover. He pulled out 3 bottles of pills. These are mid-grade spirit connection pills. You've been at the 5th level long enough. Use these to hit the 6th. Lin Zhan took the bottles like they were holy relics, his face lit with excitement. Meanwhile, back in Tianyuan town, the air was thick with anticipation. It was late at night. I'm going into seclusion to condense my Qi. My grandfather, Lin Mingyi, told my father. His eyes were bright with excitement. Since he started practicing the starry firmament technique I gave him, his progress had been explosive. He was already at the peak of the spirit connection realm. Normally, condensing a Qi required a massive amount of spiritual energy. Luckily, the mine we were working on wasn't just producing spirit stones anymore. We had found spirit crystals. With those, he had more than enough power to make the jump. Once he reached the Qi realm, he wouldn't just be the strongest in Tianyuan town. He'd be a force to be reckoned with even in Hongfeng City. Once my grandfather reached the Qi realm, he would have a solid foundation. He'd be able to walk right into the Lin family estate in Hongfeng City and settle the score with Lin Hua once and for all. My father, Lin Yuan, was visibly moved. He told my grandfather to focus entirely on his seclusion and promised to handle every detail of the family's affairs. It had been nearly 50 years since anyone in Tianyuan town had broken through to the Qi realm. Even the old ancestor of the Liu family had been in hiding for over a decade with no word of success. My grandfather didn't hesitate. He shut the heavy doors of the cultivation room and began the process of condensing his energy. The next morning, I stepped out into the courtyard. My sister, Lin Yufei, was already there practicing her sword techniques. As soon as she saw me, she sheathed her blade and ran over with a bright smile. She grabbed my arm, leaning into me with the same devotion she had shown since we were children. I looked at her and smiled. She had already reached the peak of the 3rd level of the blood refining realm. I reached out and ruffled her hair, feeling a sense of pride. I had been in this family for 16 years, and she had followed me around for almost all of them. Recently, I had discovered something incredible about her. She had somehow inherited the Green Lotus sword manual from my 3rd life. Not only that, but she possessed the ancient supreme sword physique. If she ever fully awakened that power, her mastery of the Green Lotus style would become terrifying. Brother Chun, I need to speed up my cultivation, she said, biting her lip. Her eyes were filled with a sudden, fierce determination. I was a bit surprised. Why the rush? I asked. I know you're amazing, and I don't want to fall too far behind, she replied firmly. After all, you're the genius who broke straight through to the 7th level the moment you opened your meridians.